claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he said it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled strokes, changing a storm path with black marker strokes. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it's for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, they'll fool you with distractions like real sugar in Cokes. Confronted with the truth, you'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all the MAGA base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll keep on gaslighting up until he croaks. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax.
Trump piled debt, trillions tall. Promised Mexico would fund that wall. Praised dictators, said they're strong. Had Joe done it, they'd say he's wrong. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, that screen fell play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Go through crises, storms, and more. Called soldiers losers who died in war. Hired his kids to run D.C. If it was Hunter, they'd scream treachery. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, the numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, Fox News would say I vague. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Love Kim Jong-un, he wrote love letters that take the guns first, lose those rights forever. Signed you spending bills with glee. Had Joe done that, it'd be tyranny. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they shall look today. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Kept secret files, countless untold. Said Putin's word was good as gold. Invited the Taliban to come to U.S. soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd want him to pay. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Double standards loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason if Joe's the name is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
This just in. A sudden spike in logic levels across the city. Citizens report seeing a man with glasses and a podcast mic.
We go now.
Live to Liberal Dan.
gonna call when Nazi writings on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, cause you know we got a plan. The right wing talking shit, but he ain't about to quit. He'll take his proton pack and zap your logic cause it's whack. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall.
It's being reported that Liberal Dan is setting up what appears to be some sort of straw man containment field.
He's calling out your lies with his mic vaporize. Cross the streams in your dreams, bitch, you know that he's too wise. You're like Slimer talking crap, but you walked into his trap. Yo, it's more than entertainment, it's misinformation contained. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. The Statue of Liberty, the writing you can't see. So bring the huddled masses, it's a war of the classes. While Trump may think he's Vigo, Dan can cut through that ego. He's got the facts to prove him wrong, got that logic like Egon. Your logic is a ghost, cause you know this chick is toast. When you follow MTG, it's conspiracy, you'll see. There's no need to taser, he's got wit like Occam's razor. Liberal Dan cuts those lies with his Jewish-based laser.
It's unbelievable. Liberal Dan just used the literal dog whistle to lure a large group of internet trolls into what is being called a self-collapsing rhetoric singularity. In all my years of reporting, I've never seen anything like this.
So don't call to be a heckler, you ain't no Judge Rexler. He'll bust you like Scolary, cause your logic's looking hairy. Right-wing callers think they're cool, but they sounding just like Zool. You the dog, he the man, and yo, his name is Liberal Dan. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan.
Proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. For patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk comes the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right.
And welcome to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. And this is a special treat because I actually have Gloria in the room with me. Gloria is the cat that tends to not want to be near me. There's Gloria. See how pretty she is. Oh, squeak, squeak, squeak. You want to get away? Okay. Well, you got a brief glimpse of Gloria as she was in here. I caught her so y'all can see that the cat actually does exist, and she's a very pretty kitty, but she just doesn't like to, you know, me, I guess. Except for when I'm on the stairs and I'm like patting her on her back, then she'll just, you know, accept the pats. But maybe that's because there's the railing in the way. I don't know. She's a little weird. But she's the one I picked, and she's a very sweet, precious little kitty, and she probably misses her mama because that's who she snuggles with all the time. So, see, blah, 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 blah. Thank you, Susie, for giving the link. Appreciate you. Hopefully there'll be a raid. We'll see. Anyway, so shouts out to Orvilby and Aaron over in the Twitch chat and also in the YouTube chat. We got Bonnie Petrazzi, Aaron, Steve from across the pond.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
I almost want to have like another sound for Steve where I just, you know, where instead of playing that, like I play the for multiplicity line where the one of the guys is like, "Hey, Steve." That's always quite amusing. It's one of my favorite sounds or lines from that movie. But then I'd have to be giving Steve two whatchamacallits, two sounds, and that's just, you know, not right. Anyway, Vasantha, good to see you. JD Christie, Susie, Josh, members of the J Squad, JD Christie, Tim, good to see you, Tim. Troll Slayer, Kevin, good to see you. Bingo, how are you tonight? Thank you for joining. Please make sure to smash that like button. And hey, 250 Kilo Ohm over in the Twitch channel as well. So, lots of fun, interesting stuff to talk to. Let's start off with a little bit of a discussion about the funny thing that happened to me pertaining to 420. So, I had gotten, you know, this vape pen to be able to have some in case I didn't want to roll any. Or didn't have the time to or whatever, just for convenience sake. And I used it once or twice, and then it got lost. I looked under the couch, I looked under the carpet, I looked under the rug, I looked in the cushions of the blue recliner that I had, I looked in my bedroom, I looked all over the place, and I could not find this damn thing. Could not find it to save my life. So I was like, as soon as I buy another one, I'm going to find this one. And I did on Friday, I think it was. Maybe it was Friday. I think it might have been Friday. Well, maybe it was Thursday. One of the days last week, I bought it. And then I found it in the yard Sunday night. It was outside. Apparently, I had left it outside on something, and it fell down, and there were some teeth marks. So apparently one of my dogs got to it. But even with all that, it still works. So, which is amusing, it just has little bite marks in it. So, and if the dog that did it is the one that I think that did it, that dog does not need to be having the munchies at all, because he is already a starving Marvin. It's crazy. Hey, Bingo, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Appreciate you very much for that. Teresa, good to see you in the chat. Sketchy. It's on the tariff shelf. Yes, exactly. It's definitely on the tariff shelves. Let's see. I looked for, Jeff goes, I looked all over for my smartwatch an hour one day. I already had it on. I did similar things with my glasses one time as well. It's, you know, it happens. And I wasn't even feeling intoxicated or whatever at that point. But yeah, just as a reminder, I mean, we aren't at Taco Tuesday yet. I mean, especially the big Taco Tuesday when it's Cinco de Mayo on Taco Tuesday in 2 weeks. And of course, that's the day that we're going to have Liberal Dan Radio on Tuesday instead of Monday that week, just as a reminder. Just keep reminding you that. And there's going to be a special treat that you don't want to miss. Just teasing the hell out of that one. But just as a reminder, when it comes to taco, when we say taco, we mean Trump always cons others and not Trump always chickens out, because, and I have a little fat man rants on this one as well, but at the end of the day, Trump doesn't chicken out on tariffs. Trump uses tariffs. He uses attacks. He uses his foreign and domestic policy agenda to manipulate the stock market so him and himself can make themselves even more and more wealthy, to the detriment of the American people. And of course, you know, he has the tariff thing going on where the Supreme Court overruled his tariffs and now they have to get refunds. And apparently there's an issue with the refunds, but, you know, way to go, Trump, to, you know, screw everybody over with that and then promise, you know, oh, we're going to get $2,000 tax refunds to everybody who's, you know, because of all the tariffs that we're bringing in. I guess that's moot at this point, right? I guess that's not going to happen because, you know, you can't refund the money to the people, to the taxpayers, when you have the situation where you have to now give it all back to the people who paid it initially, which is the producers. And of course, are the producers who filed for these, you know, who are going to file now for these tariffs that they paid and then passed on the cost to their consumers. Are those people now going to lower prices to the consumers or give the consumers refunds based off of what they got? My odds are no, that's never going to happen, because this is basically just going to be a gigantic giveaway to the big businesses, or to any businesses for that matter, who don't adjust their prices back to make up for the fact that their tariffs, that they were charged tariffs, and then, you know, cause the customers to have to pay more, and then they get basically a double dip because now they're paying more for the goods, and when they get their tariffs back, they're not going to have to pay it back to the people, so we all get screwed. The consumers get screwed, as always. Of course, Donald Trump is a big lying liar who lies about various things. We had this this little clip. Let's see if I can put this up here real quick. Let's put the laptop here, and it's Trump chatting away, showing his hypocrisy when it comes to the whole daycare issue. Remember, you know, when we talked about him and his daycare comments, we'll remind you of what he said. But here is Donald Trump back in September 4th of 2024. Okay, are you not doing it? Are you not wanting to play? For some reason, it's not wanting to play the audio. That's interesting.
We're going to be getting in trillions of dollars, and as much as child care is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make.
So we're taking in a whole bunch of numbers, and then we'll be able to pay for child care. Remember that. Remember he said that we were going to pay for child care.
Make this into an incredible country that can.
You're going to make this an incredible country. It's going to be so great. It's going to be the hottest country in all the world.
Afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people, but we're going to take care of our country first. This is about him trying to be a faux populist, because when people say that Trump is a populist, I call BS on him being a populist, because you can't be a billionaire and a populist. You can't be a corporatist and a populist. You have to pick one, and you already knew what side he was going to pick, but his supporters, like, he's supporting the people, blah, 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 blah. No, he's not. America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation. So we'll take care of it. Thank you. Because the United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should.
So he went from we're going to be doing so great that we'll be able to pay for daycare to now this point where he's, you know, we can't take care of daycare. It's horrible. It costs too much money. Let it go to the states where it belongs. And then, of course, you know, we are under the opinion here on Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right, that when Donald Trump hears that we pay for daycare, what he's really thinking, what he's really hearing is that we pay for everybody's daycare and it's not means tested. Because he's that much of a fucking idiot. I mean, are we surprised that he's a fucking idiot? No, but I mean, his supporters are finding out that he is a huge old idiot, including Caitlyn Jenner, who revealed in April 2026 that her renewed passport was issued with a male gender marker restricting her international travel. Issue stems from a 2025 Trump administration policy requiring passports match biological sex at birth. Despite having an amended ID, she says that the policy makes travel difficult. Oh, boo-hoo. Poor Caitlyn can't travel because she voted for a transphobic dirtbag. Who would have thought that Donald Trump was going to have transphobic policies? I mean, if only he said things during the campaign that might have given you a little bit of pause to think, oh, well, maybe Donald Trump is not the person who I should be voting for simply because of the fact that he is anti-trans and, oh, Caitlyn Jenner is a trans woman. I'm sure, you know, anybody of the MAGA folks have no problem misgendering her, dead naming her, or whatever. We're not going to do that here on Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from left, that's right. I don't care how much of a shitbag person you are. I will still use your correct gender, and I will still use the name that you wish me to use. Simple as that. But, you know, if there was only examples of Donald Trump being transphobic during the campaign. Oh, wait, there are. The America Fest rally, December 2023, and was used heavily in 2024 messaging. He said he promised to end transgender lunacy on day one and said that the federal government would only recognize two genders. Of course, there's more than two genders. Simple biology tells you that there's more than 6 combinations of XY chromosomes that are used. There's no set level of hormone levels that anybody could have. Thank you, Sparklers, for coming in and joining us over on Twitch. Appreciate you. So there is absolutely no, you know, there's no two genders. This is not a thing because modern science, if you go to the Scientific American, they have several websites on, several articles on that basically explains why the two gender is an oversimplification and why even two biologists think that having two sexes is incorrect. I mean, all you got to do is look at intersex, folks. And, you know, that's another example. And then you have, again, all of the combinations of XY. You have X0, you have XXY, you have XY, you have XXX, XX. Lots of different combinations of sex chromosomes that can be used. Plus, there's the differences in hormone levels. There's whether or not you have the SRY gene there or not. And there's other sorts of things that happen in your human development that will determine how you develop overall, which may end up resulting in somebody who is, you know, maybe perhaps more masculine or somebody who is more feminine, if you will. I mean, if you actually were to plot all the different possibilities on like a splatter graph, you would, you know, find lots of areas that have dots. Some of them might be, you know, right in the center of what one might call male, and one might be in the center of what one might call female. But then you have, you know, people who are hyper masculine and hyper feminine, and you have people who are like smack dab in the middle with the different amounts of, you know, hormones levels that they have, and the different, you know, again, sex chromosome combinations. So science will tell you there are more than two genders. Trisha Eastman goes, but that's science, of course. And of course, we have an administration that rejects science. But however, you know, the point that we're talking about this today is the fact that Caitlyn Jenner is crying boo-hoo over the fact that, you know, Donald Trump did something that's anti-trans and has made it harder for her to travel. Oh no, poor Caitlyn. But yeah, I mean, she either, you know, just conveniently ignored it, or worse, thought, oh, well, his changes are not going to affect me any, so therefore I'm not worrying about it. I'm not going to worry about my fellow trans brothers and sisters who are going to be harmed by this person's policies. But the comments made at the America Fest rally in December 2023 are not the only ones. In multiple states in 2024, Donald Trump referred to gender-affirming care as child mutilation, even though there are no real examples of children having bottom surgery, and top surgery is rare. And the only people that I know who had a procedure on her top was somebody who was, you know, a cis woman, still is a cis woman, and just had overly developed breasts to the point where it was hurting her back, so she needed to have surgery to, you know, make her not have a backache. But no, but Trump's like, oh, it's child mutilation. And a lot of these websites will talk about, oh, here's a gender clinic in I think in North Carolina or something, and they treat people as young as 2 or 1 or whatever. I'm like, yeah, nobody at 2 is going to be coming out as trans. That's not going to happen. But there may be examples of people who are young people who might have injuries, and in order to fix the injuries down there, they have to do surgeries down there, and those surgeries would be what? gender-affirming care. Hell, testosterone therapy for older men to make them have higher levels of T if they have low T. That's gender-affirming care. There are many examples of gender-affirming care that cis people get, but, you know, that doesn't... Hell, we talked about the examples of the kids who are 8, 9 getting precocious puberty. You get precocious puberty, and these people need puberty blockers because it is harmful for them to get puberty onsetting that early. But the conservatives don't give a shit about that because they don't care about, you know, the people who need these drugs or need these surgeries or need whatever's going on to actually help them, you know, survive. There was a case of a kid, again, in Texas. The family had to move to a different state in order to make sure that they could get their child the needed the needed puberty blockers to help them develop as they should instead of getting precocious puberty. But idiots like Ken Paxton, the AG of Texas, didn't give a crap about that and was going to go after any doctor who claimed it was because of precocious puberty, because they believe that when doctors claim such a thing, that they are, you know, that they are lying and they are using precocious puberty as a reason to help young trans kids. But in reality, you know, again, the amount of young trans kids that exist are a very small minority of the population, but they still are a portion of the population that needs to be cared for, needs to be taken care of, and for every single person who accepts a young trans person for who they are and not restricting them to what was on their birth certificate initially, that person, that individual will be 50% less likely to off themselves. And, you know, that is a good thing to do. And yes, we should absolutely have better mental health care in this country to help people navigate those things. And we shouldn't have situations where psychologists are prohibited from speaking to children about what they're feeling and how they're feeling about themselves to allow them to process the feelings that are going on and to really understand what's going on, to allow them to have the therapy that they need to go through whatever it is that they're going through. I can't know what they're going through because I'm a cis male and I've never had any doubts about what my gender identity is, what my gender, you know, how I, you know, identify with as it pertains to gender. With my birth certificate gender clearly matches the gender that I am. And as such, I'm not somebody who can ever know that. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to trust the people who tell me about their lived life experiences and let them and basically use my voice to amplify what they are trying to say. Further examples of Donald Trump. There was the formal campaign video outlining his agenda, proposed banning gender-affirming care for minors nationwide. Again, minors are not getting surgeries that are done. Now, gender-affirming care doesn't just mean surgeries. It means allowing a young trans man to get a binder. So instead of using like duct tape, which can be harmful, they can get a binder to help restrict or make their chest seem less prominent. So that's gender-affirming care. Gender-affirming care could simply be some therapy. Gender-affirming care could be different clothing for the individuals and allowing them to dress in the way that feels natural for them instead of forcing them into wearing certain things that are clothing that is typically gendered when no clothing should be gendered. Anybody should wear any clothes that they want to wear. F anybody who says otherwise. He also called for investigations into doctors and hospitals who provide such care. He suggested restricting federal recognition of gender to birth at sex. Late campaign messaging and fall 2024 rallies and ads. He framed the transgender issue as part of a culture war. Continued repeating earlier claims about schools, sports, and federal policy. And positioned opposition to transgender inclusion as a defining campaign issue. He repeated the same phrases, two genders, protect children, and he actually had that stupid ad where they said, oh, Kamala Harris is for they, them, Donald Trump is for you, mocking the whole use of the they, them pronoun. Of course, I'll guarantee you, the first people who will understand using they, them to describe a singular person is a man trying to lie to his girlfriend or wife that he was talking to somebody who happened to be a woman. And instead of telling the woman, oh, I was talking to this woman the other day, he was like, oh, I was talking to this person and they, them were talking this, that, or the other. And they'll hide the fact that they're the different gender from them to basically try and, I guess, cheat on their spouses or whatever. Because again, men need to do better. But again, the reason I'm putting this all out again on with what happened in the 2024 campaign is, again, Caitlyn Jenner's crying and whining over the fact that her international travel is made more difficult because she now has a passport that reflects her birth certificate gender. Oh no, boo-hoo. Yeah, you know what? I don't want this to happen to any trans person, but you know what? You F around and you find out. And Caitlyn Jenner has now entered the find out phase. I don't know why I left this thing back on my silly me leaving that on. At least it wasn't anything dirty, right? Hey, Satin Flower, Dragon, thank you for gifting 5 Liberal Dan memberships. Oh, Christine got one. Love seeing when people who are regulars get one. Let's see, CatFem over on Twitch. The long-term side effects in Texas also loses out on some really good doctors because nobody wants to come to Texas to be a doctor anymore. Exactly. You can't give care to children who need, these medicines, need puberty blockers to stop precocious puberty. If you're a woman who is facing a life-threatening pregnancy, the state will require you to actually get to the point where it's life-threatening, where like you're getting sepsis and you have to act. Why would you, if you have a failing pregnancy like Kate Cox, why the hell would you want to force that person to maintain the pregnancy just because, oh, we detect a fetal heartbeat? Do you really? The fetus is in the process of dying and there's no chance that the fetus is going to survive, yet you're going to force this person to risk sepsis because you don't understand how science works, you dumb pieces of shit. Let's see. They attack marginalized communities. It's a distraction of the fact that they're not there to help working people. They're here to enrich themselves and their rich buddies. Exactly. That is exactly the true. And that's what we were talking about just a little earlier when we played the clip with Donald Trump from 2024 when he was campaigning on the idea that we were going to pay for daycare because of all the tariff money that we're going to be bringing in. We'll be able to afford everything that's part of making America great again. We'd be paying for all this daycare. And then what does he say this year? Oh, now we can't afford daycare. It should go to the states. Daycare should be paid for by the states, again, because he's a fucking idiot, and I guarantee you that he believes that when he hears that we're paying, the federal tax dollars are paying for daycare, that it's paying for everybody's daycare, that it's not means tested, because again, he's a fucking stupid asshole. CatFem says, I support the full revolution-style overthrow of this government. Viva la revolution. You walk up there with a knife stuck in your head, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any doctors that can help you. You're going to have to go out in the area. You're going to have to go to New Mexico. Pretty damn much. And exactly, Trisha says they really never care unless it's affecting them. Weightlifting is technically gender-affirming care. Beauty pageants are child abuse. Some Polynesian tribes believe that there are 4 genders. Yeah, and actually in Jewish law, there's actually 6 genders. In Jewish code, they refer to 6 genders that exist, not just 4. Let's see, go back over to the chat. Good to see you, Roxanne. Suzanne, good to see you. Mud, thank you, Mud, for joining. Make sure everybody smash that like button, and then the patriarchy. MJ Daniel, good to see you. Orb Vroomer, good to see you too. Let's see, who else have I missed? Aben Irix, good to see you. Nice seeing you in one of the other chats the other day. Surrender Monkey, exactly, good to see you. If God didn't create doctors that created a cure for the medical condition, then it wouldn't have happened. It's literally God's fault. Good point, good point. But yeah, I don't love this for trans folk. Absolutely, 100% not a bit. But I'm going to still laugh at Caitlyn Jenner for thinking that she wasn't going to be harmed. You know, AKA she didn't think the face-eating leopards were going to eat her face too. So, CatFem goes, sorry, I comment a lot because I listen to everything. Hey, every time you comment, that adds more to the algorithm, I'm assuming, over there at Twitch as well. And the more you comment, the more attention I will get. So thank you very much. Anyway, so what we got? Let's see. What else do we want to talk about today? Just identify that too. Just have fun with that. Thank you, Primitive Icon, for being a liberal Danimal or wild Danimal for 22 months. That's like the next level up. But appreciate you for your support. Thank you so much for supporting the show. And at 22 months, that's almost as long as Aaron and Jolie. It's like, you know, 3rd place almost. So awesome. Thank you. And good to see you, Christine. Who else am I missing? That I said hello. If I haven't said hello to you yet, I apologize. Anyway. Aben Irix had dentist today at noon. Hopefully you were able to partake in today's festivities or activities that might happen today to help you ease off the pain, right? What's up, Central Scrutinizer? How is it for you lately? How is it for me lately? Oh boy. Let's just put it this way. My wife's still in the hospital. And it looks like my wife is going to hit our maximum out of pocket of our insurance before the new plan year starts. Now, the plan year has a... thank you for the follow, Lady B Miniatures. The plan year is... The deductibles for my insurance are calendar year. But the plan year goes from June through May. So we can switch horses midstream if we want to. And I'm actually looking at possibly doing that to try and save me money overall. Because she's going to be hitting her max out of pocket in May, and then I have all of this stuff coming in that's going to be like, you know, for FSA account available for June, and I can only use the stuff that I put in for the FSA now, and I only put $900 for the FSA this year. So there's $5,000 that I wasn't anticipating on spending this soon. So yeah, this year is already hurting a lot. So hope they're thinking that she might come home on Friday, but that might also be a, hey, we gave the insurance company a date that she'll be coming home because that's our target, that's our goal, but perhaps it's going to be pushed back some more depending on what's going to happen. So let's see. Damon Dog, good to see you. And absolutely, they are going after daycare in Michigan as well. The person who's in charge of the fraud was a white lady. Exactly what we've talked about here. We've talked about that before on Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left. That's right. We have covered that before. And again, the whole going after the daycare thing, despite the fact that it was also run by a white lady, is the fact that, you know, they are using it as a cudgel to go after immigrants. They're trying to claim that folks who are immigrants, folks who are of Somali descent, are the ones who are being terrible and horrible and fraudulent or whatever, when in reality, the amount of people who happen to be Somali, who happen to get caught up in some of these things, make up like 1/10% of the total Somali population in the state of Minnesota. So, you know, to me, so when you try and bring up the fact that they happen to be Somali, that just shows us that you are being a bigot, because it's not relevant to the topic. Just these people committed fraud, and that's it. Don't mention their heritage. Don't mention their ancestry. Don't mention that unless you want to be pointed out by us that you're being a bigot, because again, it's not relevant to what's going on. Anyway, let's see. What else? Oh, you have Hannity. Sean Hannity has self-apostatized. I didn't know if that was a word. I needed to get a smaller word in there to be able to fit in the YouTube title, and I was like, is apostatize a word? And it turns out it is a word. So yes, he has left the Catholic Church after so-called institutionalized corruption amongst the Catholic Church. Fox News host Sean Hannity, he explained his decision to leave the Catholic Church long before President Trump criticized Pope Leo. As today, I've no longer called myself a Catholic. I'm a Christian. He said on the primetime show Hannity, I left the Catholic Church in large part due to the institutionalized corruption, and it was at the parish level, to the bishop level, to the cardinals, all the way to Rome, without naming specific situations. Hannity criticized the so-called scandals. Of course, we know what scandals there are there, and terrible behaviors in the Catholic Church that were claimed were frankly not only unchecked, but never fully corrected it. But I don't think he really announced that he left the church until after the criticisms that Trump made of the current Pope, of Pope Leo. So Sean Hannity has absolutely self-apostatized himself. Bye-bye, Sean. Exactly. Right, said Rob. Corruption really bothers Sean Hannity. Exactly. He hates the corruption of the Catholic Church, but he doesn't hate the corruption of the Donald Trump administration, who uses tariffs or the threat of tariffs or bringing tariffs on and then taking tariffs off to manipulate the stock market. He uses actions in Iran to manipulate the stock market, to manipulate oil prices, to make sure that his rich oil buddies can get richer. Because again, it's not about chickening out. It's about being a con artist. It's about being a con man. He is somebody who is going to use his power and authority to enrich himself and enrich his other wealthy buddies. So again, it's not chickening out. It's him being a con man. So when I say taco, I mean Trump always cons others. That's what I mean when I say taco. Because he's not chickening out, he is conning. Always, all the time, all day long. Lady B. Minter says, yet people in the USA supported this con man. Yeah, I mean, because the media failed to do its job. The media failed to report on Donald Trump's fraudulent activity, his criminal activity, correctly. They were always scared. They were scared about, oh, if I say the wrong thing, Snopes might come after me and say that I'm fact-checked wrong. More on Snopes in a little bit. Mind you, we're talking about Snopes a little bit later today as well, because the fact-checking has gotten a bit ridiculous. Like, for example, when we were looking at Project 2025 way back in the day, during the 2024 campaign, we looked at how, like the NOAA, there was like several things, like steps A, B, C, and D, that would make changes to the NOAA. And make changes to all of the departments related to it, separating them up, putting up into different other organizations, into other government entities or whatever. And the end result of chopping all these up would be, poor examples of like reporting of the weather and other examples where, you could read, A, B, and C and see that those things were happening and come to conclusion that D and E were happening as well. But because Project 2025 didn't say D and E, Snopes would be like, well, Project 2025 didn't say that. Of course it didn't say those things, but if you read A, B, and C, and the logical conclusion is D and E is going to happen, then it's reasonable to say that D and E are going to happen because of Project 2025, but Snopes is too, pedantic, I guess, about the whole thing, and they don't want to allow people to reach logical conclusions based on the facts given. That's one of my bigger problems with recent fact-checking, is that they don't allow that to happen. Lady B. Minter says Snopes has turned into a fascist propaganda machine now. I mean, there are some times where they're still correct. I mean, stop clocks and all, right? I mean, speaking of stop clocks, you have Donald Trump, who was signed something to allow some psychedelics to be used for the treatment of PTSD, especially in trauma victims and people with PTSD from the military, like veterans or whatever. And a lot of people are pointing that as a good thing. Fine. Okay. Stop clocks. He did one good thing. Mazel tov. He's done a whole lot of other shitty things. Let's see. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. That is math, and this administration doesn't like math, Christine. But yes, that is very true. Sunflower Dragon, I say broken clock. That works too. That might even work better, especially for Donald John Trump. Now, I do want to say one thing. And again, thank you everybody for joining Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left. That's right. We have 123 current viewers and 45 likes. So please make sure to smash that like button. Thank you so much. And also, if you're over on Twitch and you haven't followed yet, please make sure to follow. Also, make sure to go to liberaldanradio.com, which is the YouTube channel. Subscribe over there. Help me get the numbers up. Comment on all my other videos that I have there. Anything helps the algorithm, and Al Gore needs more rhythm. So, one of the problems with having Gloria up here earlier in the show was that now her hair is up here and I'm kind of itching or whatever. So it looks like I'm Don Jr. trying to get away the powder that I used earlier, but I'm not. It's just cat hair. I promise you. It's 420. It's not that type of day. Never that type of day for me. I don't partake in that sort of thing. It might partake in the other things. Again, we talked about my partially chewed vape that I have that my dog went after, a cat fem. I need hallucinogens to get through this fucking administration's term. You're more like broken digital clock with Trump, a broken digital clock to show a blank face. Fortunately, he's not showing a black face, right? But I do want to talk about the fact that a lot of this show that I'm going to be talking about it from, I guess, this point on. I have a lot of stuff lined up to talk about this week. But I'm also, again, as I'm going to remind everybody, I'm pretty exhausted from the past, few weeks because of Cassie being in the hospital, me having to wake up early in the morning, me having to, just run back and forth and not have any time to, catch my own breath or do many things for my own self. I'm pretty exhausted, so I don't know how long the show will last. I don't know if I'll take phone calls today. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. Wait, George Takei turned 89 today.
Oh my.
Happy birthday to George Takei. I didn't even realize that. I'm surprised I didn't see that in my Facebook feed at all, because that's one of my favorite sounds to play.
Oh my.
Yeah, so do you think they will fire Kash Patel? I mean, wouldn't you fire this person if that person was looking at you all crazy-eyed? One of the funniest things I heard was that when they were talking about Kristi Noem's husband and how he had those balloons, and like one of the balloons was like kind of pointing up and the other balloon was pointing down, and it showed the picture of him being his bimbofication phase, and then it showed Kash Patel. I think it was this picture of Kash Patel, and they were like, oh, they were separated at birth, and I just died. So hilarious. Orb rumor: Rogan, AFK Jr., and Oz have you covered if you need hallucinogens. Nah, I'm pretty good. Hey Jolie, good to see you as well. Thank you. Let's see, you know the whole story, right? He got shit-faced drunk, hung out and locked out of his office screaming at 8 Facebook agents, then showed up the next day on Fox News. Somebody else's suit looking like he just smoked a bunch of hashish. I mean, I did hear that he forgot his password and he couldn't get into his email account, and because of that, he thought he was fired. But I'm like, well, I mean, under the Donald Trump administration, you could be fired at the drop of the hat. If you breathe wrong near Donald Trump, he's going to shit can you. So, because these bros ain't loyal. They are absolutely not loyal to anybody. I mean, he expects loyalty for him, but he doesn't return that loyalty in kind, except for maybe to Vladimir Putin, because he's definitely loyal to Vladimir Putin. Yeah, a right to work administration. Yeah, all of these folks in the Trump administration are finding out exactly why right to work is terrible, because, you know, right to work only means right to fire. Josh, focus, Cash, focus. He's like, I can't focus. I'm too angry. I can't believe, like, just in a matter of, like, a couple of seconds, like, someone's like, oh, George Takei's birthday. And I'm like, here's the sound. Oh, here's Kash Patel. Here's the picture. So, wonder what else I'll be able to pull up real quickly. I did see that The Onion finally got to take over InfoWars, and it's going to make it a parody. That is brilliant and great and wonderful, and I can't wait to see this. Lady Beatrice, that's why Trump fillets Putin. Pretty much, yeah. You know, I heard it's not the first time he might have ever done something like that with old Bill. He wasn't very good, I can tell you. He was not very good at all. Monica was much better. Anyway, so maybe that more of that conversation should be left for Liberal Dan Radio After Dark. I do have I have the theme song ready. I have a couple of topics to talk about. It's just a matter of which day I pull that trigger. It's probably going to be a Wednesday. I'm not sure which Wednesday it's going to be, but since Wednesday is my least viewed show, because I happen to go up against some other folks at the same time, even though I was there first. Wednesday is, you know, I might just do a show, like a brief show, like an hour here, and then hop on over to the Discord, and then, you know, we'll allow people to come in maybe the first few shows, and then we'll see who will remain having access at some point, or when we'll stop allowing free access into the Liberal Dan After Dark show. See, Lady B, isn't Clinton in the Epstein files? Yeah, he is. And of course, Clinton came out, and both Clintons came out and said, hey, investigate, because we have nothing to hide. And Trump's like, it's a hoax. It's a hoax. Because everything's a hoax, according to Donald Trump. That's why we have this song.
A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills.
Anyway, let's see. The head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation freaks out, thinking he's fired rather than calling tech support like a normal person. Got it. Exactly. Like, you know, there is a joke to be made there about calling, somebody should be knowing how to call tech support, but still, I'm not going to make it. You can make it yourself, right? Right. I mean, Trump is mentioned so much in the Epstein files that it should just be called the Trump files at this point. But, you know, as old Donnie Boy says.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Trump, I drank the Kool-Aid and it choked me. Wow. Well, if you're in pain, Trump, you should take some.
I said, well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen.
Catfem. Is that actually true, or is that a joke? I mean, if it's a joke, it's great. If it's true, it's even greater. That he's mentioned more times in the Epstein files than Jesus is mentioned in the New Testament. That's great, regardless. Damon Dog says it's the liquor cabinet, Cash, Keg's Breath, and Judge Box Wine. Exactly. And of course, none of them probably know how to to the other version of liquor, right? Or wouldn't care to. But maybe that's another story for Liberal Dan After Dark, or another joke for Liberal Dan After Dark. Trump should have taken ivermectin in 2020. Maybe he would have died faster. Maybe. I do have a little bit. I have a friend of mine and who has put in a lot of research about a lot of things and has made all of that stuff available. So one of the things that I plan on doing in upcoming shows is I'm going to be using what she has assembled. And when we do so, we're going to put her Venmo up so that she can get support on her Venmo for doing that research. We're going to shout her out, and we're going to make sure that y'all give her a little bit of support. Just when you do, just I'll remind you to say, if you do, be like, got this on Liberal Dan Radio, just to see how much, support she actually gets from y'all. But yeah, she has a lot of information, and there's especially there's more to the scam of the ivermectin thing during the COVID than even I knew. And I still knew that, ivermectin was just, ridiculousness, but it was, the real America's doctors or whatever it was, America's Frontline Doctors, whatever the hell that bogus organization was called. They're just basically grifting over ivermectin. And we'll be talking about that more on a future episode of Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Susie goes, buy Dan coffee. Exactly. You can buy me a cider. Go to buymecoffee.com/liberaldanradio, or you can go to liberaldan.com and click the buy me a cider button. You can Venmo. I always get those hands wrong. You can Venmo at Liberal Dan. You can buy super chats, super stickers here on YouTube, or you can gift memberships or subscriptions on Twitch and YouTube, etc., or YouTube and Twitch. I guess that's the right order. So let's see. When will Colonel Sanders do his duty and cause a coronary coagulation? I don't know. I thought it would be more from like a hamburger or a cheeseburger from McDonald's, or that maybe something that he gets door dashed, right? Well, note to international Liberal Dan Radio fans in Australia, Venmo does not work in Australia. Really? Crikey, I didn't realize that. Mud, Trump is 38,000 times in the Epstein files. Jesus is 38,000 times across 3. Where'd it go? It just completely just jumped on me. I don't know where it went. Oh, it was deleted. That's why. Mud said, sorry. I guess he had a typo in that. I was like, what happened to the text right there? See, Venmo, it's not legal here, and Venmo doesn't have a presence here. I mean, you could always buy me a cider, or patreon.com/liberaldan, or various other ways to support the show. Buy gift subscriptions, buy memberships, etc. Mud, I mistyped 3 times. It happens to the best of us, especially on 420, right? I may have a coffee, it's K-O-F-I. I may have a Kofi or a coffee or whatever it is. I read that and I say Kofi because of Kofi Kingston in wrestling. But yes, speaking of wrestling, something on that in a second. But first and foremost, again, the next couple of topics that we're going to go into, that we're going to start talking about, are going to be on a subject matter that I could have maybe talked about on Liberal Dan Radio After Dark, but I really think that there has to be spoken about in the general show and not that. Because we've been actually, for the last week or so, have been focusing on why men need to do better. It was initialized when we were talking about on a previous show how men are more likely to, in a situation where their spouse is like diagnosed with like cancer or multiple sclerosis or some other, big nasty condition that is going to, be a threat to that person's life. When a spouse, a wife might leave a husband in that situation like 2% of the time, and a husband might leave the wife in the situation like 20% of the time. So 6 or 7 times more likely for a husband to leave his wife than a wife to leave their husband when the spouse is in a situation. It's one of the examples of why I said men need to do better. We were going over all sorts of different versions of that. And then there, I also have the Unraveling Toxic Masculinity playlist. Easy for me to say. I have the Unraveling Toxic Masculinity playlist over on YouTube, where I respond to some of these manosphere type folks and try and go over, why exactly what they're saying is wrong. And I have one that's in the hopper that I need to publish, and I keep forgetting to do it because, again, I'm getting lagging behind on all the video production that I have that I want to push up to YouTube at some point. But yeah, it's just another example of men needing to do better. And again, so in this conversation, we're going to start off with the fact that Elena Black, who is a wrestler on TNA Wrestling, formerly known as Cora Jade in WWE NXT. She was sexually assaulted by a fan during a meet and greet at WrestleCon in Las Vegas. Of course, they have WrestleCon the same weekend that WrestleMania is, and they'll have it the same place where WrestleMania is to get more people coming in and talking about stuff. Talking about wrestling, to get other wrestlers coming into town, whatever. When the first WrestleMania, when I was driving Uber still, like 30 came to town in New Orleans. I actually gave a wrestler a ride. I got to meet some of the wrestlers as part of my rideshare thing or whatever. And then, you know, the next time they were here, I actually won tickets to WrestleMania from Xavier Woods, speaking of New Day. But yeah, so she had a meet and greet at WrestleCon. She said the fan inappropriately grabbed her hindquarters. She confronted the individual, called him a sick effing pig, and posted the video of him on social media to highlight the incident. The man was reportedly escorted away by security and her boyfriend, fellow wrestler KC Navarro. And she rightly expressed her anger on social media, requesting the fan be banned from future events. Look, if you're going to pose for a picture with anybody, I don't care if they're a celebrity or not, if you don't know the person and you don't have consent to touch the person, then especially if you're a guy and you're like a bigger person and you know you are imposing on somebody else or whatever, you need to follow the Keanu Reeves model, which is, you know, maybe put your arm around but don't touch, but do like the hover thing that Keanu does, or just simply ask if, you know, you want to if they're okay with a certain, if they're okay with a handshake, if they're okay with a small hug, if they're okay with whatever. Ask them first before, you know, assuming that it's okay to put your arm around the person and touch them, let alone grabbing their ass, which most likely is not going to be okay regardless of where you are. I don't care if you're at WrestleCon, I don't care if you're at Comic-Con, I don't care if you're at some Pornhub con or whatever it is, so like what the AVN Awards or something like that with a convention. I don't care if you're meeting a porn star. The way they're dressed and what they do for profession or anything else is not licensed. It's not implied consent. There's never implied consent. Even with your own spouse. We'll get to that in a little bit as well. But look, there was a situation where I was on a cruise ship and I wear a shirt that says free hugs. And I'm a huggy person, and people walk up and they'll do this, and I'll be like, okay, we'll hug, whatever. But they have to approach me and ask for the hug first. I'm not going to sit there and just randomly give hugs to random strangers without knowing that they want to get hugged. So somebody came up to me another day and was like, I missed my opportunity to hug you. Can I hug you now? And I was like, sure. But I gave my wife the phone or whatever, and she gave my wife the phone because she wanted a picture as well. And I was like, you know, I didn't know what she might want as the form of a hug or whatever, so I just kind of did the Keanu Reeves thing where I put my arm around but didn't touch. But she put her arm around me, so I'm like, okay. And then she like put her arm around, I'm like, okay, we're getting a big hug, I guess. And my wife's sitting there laughing at me. She thinks it's freaking hysterical because I have an awesome wife. She thinks it's absolutely freaking funny. Meanwhile, I was just making sure that, you know, again, nobody should be touching anybody else without their consent in any particular way without their consent. And we embrace consent here on Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from Left, That's Right. And we embrace it in all forms. So, but yeah, I mean, and when it comes to like celebrity things, like, you know, there are even circumstances where wrestlers, you know, might be walking in an airport and like maybe they're just not feeling in the mood to give an autograph. Leave them the hell alone. If they say I'm not interested, then leave them alone. I saw Kevin Owens, sometimes known as Kevin Steen. It was at Disney World. It was in Epcot. No, it was Animal Kingdom. I was at Animal Kingdom, and I saw him, and I immediately saw his tattoo on his arm, and then I was like, oh, that's Kevin Owens. So I kind of walked over there and was like, excuse me, you know, do you mind if I like shake your hand or get a picture with you? He's like, I really don't feel like doing it right now. I was like, okay. I just want to let you know that you got me back into wrestling after a while not being into it, and I have you specifically to thank for it because I really liked what he was doing at the time. And he thanked me for that, and I just let him go. And I didn't even post on social media that I saw Kevin Steen at Epcot or Animal Kingdom or whatever, simply because if he wants to have alone time with his family, then by all means, I'm not going to tell the whole world, oh, here he is at Epcot or Animal Kingdom, whatever. So, Christine, I virtually hug anyone, but in reality, don't touch me. And I respect that, of course. See, I had a photo with my favorite ice hockey player in my local league here on Friday. Didn't put my arm around him, but I didn't mind when he did it. But I'm very quiet, introvert, and if I met him for the first time, a bit starstruck. Also, he didn't touch my ass, so there's that. I mean, yeah, there is that. But I mean, again, to me, he probably should have just said, "Hey, can I put my arm around you?" or something like that, just to gauge your comfort level. But one of the reasons we're talking about this is the fact that there is a online academy that has been revealed that men are going. Let's go to this Mitch the Lawyer Substack. It was a CNN expose. This is the executive summary from Mitch the Lawyer on Substack. Right now, nearly 1,000 men are meeting in a private Telegram group called ZZZ, like ZZZ, trading dosages, live stream links, and mail order addresses for $175 sleeping liquids designed to erase their wives' ability to resist or remember what is going on. CNN's had a months-long undercover investigation, and it was published last week, proves that the ecosystem Dominic Pellicot used to recruit 72 men to assault his unconscious wife, that was in France, did not die when French authorities shut down that website. It migrated and multiplied and turned into a working commercial academy operating on mainstream platforms under the shield of outdated U.S. internet law. And what you're about to read names the men, the drugs, the platforms, the prosecutions, or whatever. And that is all on his site. What nobody told you about the Pellicot verdict. Pellicot was sentenced to 20 years in Avignon in December 2024 for orchestrating what was going on with his wife. Again, I'm trying to keep this as tame as possible, even though you can't really talk about this in a tame way, but I'm trying to avoid the R word simply because, when these clips go to TikTok, you have to say grape, even though everybody knows what you're talking about. Apparently on TikTok, you can't have an adult conversation about adult subjects like consent or whatever without having somebody throw the ban hammer on you and deleting your video. So for over a decade, his wife was assaulted. And then the monstrous man was caught, brave woman honored, chapter closed, but the chapter never closed. The chapter multiplied. The French website Pellicot used to recruit the men who did that was called Coco. Its chat room carried the name Meeting Without Her Knowledge, à son insu. French authorities took Coco offline in June 2024 as part of an anti-crime operation. Easy for me to say. Prosecutors say Coco was linked to more than 23,000 judicial proceedings involving more than 480 identified victims. In January 2012, the site's finder, Isaac Steidel, was arrested in Paris and charged on 8 counts, including aggravated pimping, aggravated money laundering, complicity in drug trafficking, distribution of child abuse material, corruption of minors, and administering an online platform to facilitate illicit transactions. He denies the charges. He awaits bail of 100,000 euros, but taking down Coco wasn't the win that everybody thought it might have been. CNN's As Equals team, reporters Saskia Van Dorn, Niam Kennedy, and Kara Fox worked with colleagues across Europe and North America, spending months inside a successor ecosystem. They started on the website called Motherless, a U.S.-hosted site that carries over 20,000 videos tagged as, quote, sleep content. The characterization is precise. The tags include hashtag passed out and hashtag iCheck. iCheck refers to clips in which a guy lifts the closed eyelid of an unconscious woman to prove that she's fully sedated before whatever happens is going to happen. Some of those clips have passed 50,000 individual views. From CNN followed user posted into a private Telegram group called ZZZ. Almost 1,000 members, dozens active at any hour. Reporters posed as men and were admitted. Inside, the group is running what amounts to a training academy, telling people how to do these things to their wives. And they offered live streams for $20 per viewer, paid in crypto, during which paying customers directed the perpetrator. One user in West Africa shared a preview clip of a woman he described as his wife, who is asleep, to attract buyers to his next broadcast. Another user operating out of Spanish enclave of Ceuta on the North African coast advertised a mail order business selling this liquid that could be used to facilitate the sleepiness. And again, Piotr, a Polish man, they protected under the name Piotr. He told his reporters his wife had no idea what was going on. Over months of messaging, he described, using that liquid and using alcohol in combination, which can be fatal. He shared that what he said, which were non-consensual photographs of her. Eventually, he did give reporters his address. They traveled to Poland and confirmed he was real. They saw him at a restaurant with the person who he described as his spouse. They did not confront him, and they took their evidence to Polish police. On April 9th, 2026, a district prosecutor's office in Lublin announced an arrest. The suspect was charged under Article 197 of the Polish Criminal Code, which covers all such crimes. He admitted the charges. He was remanded into custody for 3 months and faces up 3 to 20 years if convicted. Polish media also identified the man as Piotr. One arrest, one woman warned, hundreds more still inside that group on the day that you are reading this. Some survivors have spoken out. Zoe Watts lived in Devon, England, spent 16 years married to a man who was crushing their son's medicine into evening tea. They had 4 children. He confessed on Sunday after church, reciting the details as if he was reading a grocery list. She kept the secret to protect her kids. After a panic attack, she told her sister, whose mother called the police. Her ex-husband is now serving 11 years, which is far too few years, in my opinion. Zoe told CNN she cannot say the word out loud, the R word out loud without flinching. People in her life framed her ordeal as less serious because it happened in her own bed, which is bullshit. Let's see, the location of the crime does not downgrade the crime. Assault is assault. Amanda Stanhope lives in Wigan in northwest England. For 5 years, she woke with bruises in clothes she didn't remember changing into, on a towel she had not placed there and don't know why. And you all know what happened to that point. Valentina, a mother of 2 in northern Italy, using a pseudonym, discovered videos her husband of 20 years had filmed after being sedated with alcohol and sedatives, or drugged with those two. She had no physical marks. Without the footage, she would not have believed it. Her husband was sentenced to 8 years for multiple aggravated assaults. She told CNN a different scent in her bedroom can put her back into the trauma. The brotherhood and the drug. Here's the part that separates the story from every other piece of internet horror that you have seen. Annabelle Montaigne, a French forensic pathologist or psychologist who assessed Dominic Pellicut and testified at his trial, told CNN that the online ecosystem feeds something deeper than individual gratification. The men bond, they validate each other. The group identity becomes the cover. Reinforcements normalize what would otherwise repel participants. They described the dynamic as a perverse brotherhood meeting narcissistic needs. This is not a man with sickness. This is a community manufacturing sickness at large scale. Sandrine Josso, a member of the French National Assembly, coined the phrase CNN used for its headline. She herself was drugged with MDMA by a different senator at his Paris apartment. Paris convicted him and sentenced him to 4 years, 18 months to serve with a ban on holding elected office. Again, 4 years, not enough. She calls the Telegram groups of schools of violence. Every subject needed to become a grapist, as you have to say on TikTok. On the pharmacology side, Michael Kramer Borneman, the Minneapolis-based sleep specialist who leads the Sleep Forensics Associates, gave CNN the piece of the puzzle that prosecutors and emergency room physicians needed to hear. Classic rape, the drugs that are used typically are tightly controlled and stay detectable. Perpetrators have pivoted to prescription sedatives. In particular, a particular one I'm not going to name because I don't want to help these assholes out, that basically acts within minutes and doesn't stay within the bloodstream, so it's much harder to detect. So, platforms in the law. The website Motherless operates from the United States under the shield of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Section 230 largely insulates platform owners from civil liability for content users upload. The shield was written in 1996 for an internet that no longer exists. It was never intended to license a platform to host 20,000 videos of what was going on in this particular case. Outside the United States, regulators are starting to move. The UK's Office of Communications, Ofcom, opened an investigation on May 14th, 2025, into the parent Luxembourg-registered Kick Online Entertainment after the company failed to respond to the statutory information request tied to its illegal content risk assessment. No regulator has touched the actual content. Ofcom told CNN that deciding whether a given piece of content is illegal is a platform's job, not the regulators. Again, but here's the thing. Even if it's not legal, even if it is legal, even if they have the shield of 230, you should still take the shit down if you know that it exists, because you should be a moral human being. You should be an ethical human being. You should be somebody who doesn't allow these things. Like if I could get away with posting some of this stuff on an online forum, you know what I would do? I would not do it because it's wrong. But to these people, money is more important than preventing harm to others. That's how we got this president elected. Somebody who was found civilly liable of, cases of sexual abuse with E. Jean Carroll. Somebody who admitted to grabbing people by the hoo-ha without their consent. Not Weiss in that Access Hollywood or in whatever Inside Edition video, I think it was Access Hollywood. Not just there, but in the deposition in the E. Jean Carroll trial. He was given the opportunity to be like, I was just joking around. I was just kidding. I don't really grab people. That doesn't happen. It's just a joke. Just locker room talk. He could have said that in the deposition, but no, he doubled down and he said, yes, wealthy people are allowed to do that. He didn't shy back away from it at all. He admitted to it. Like, what kind of dumb asshole are you if you're going to do that? Not just dumb, but asshole. I mean, you're stupid for admitting it twice. You're an asshole for, saying it's something that you do. You can just walk up on people and grab them. And we have a president now who is somebody who was found sexually liable for sexual abuse. Now, if you said he was found, guilty of grape, as you have to say stupidly on TikTok, if you found it, if he was found, because he was found that, if you say grape instead of the other thing, instead of the abuse, people like Snopes will come and be like, well, that's not really what he was found civilly liable for. Or if somebody said, oh, he was convicted, they'd be like, oh, he wasn't really convicted. It was a civil, not a criminal trial. That's not the important point. Again, that's one of the problems I have with these fact checkers now, is that they focus on the minutia instead of focusing on the real topic. And again, if you go to the CNN reports here, because there were people who were sharing this. There were people who were sharing this online, sharing the report and reporting the online academy, and were sharing that 62 million men, most of them Americans, were on the site, or have used the site in a month. 62 million men. Now, at the moment I saw 62 million men, I was like, is that legit? It doesn't seem like a legit number. It sounds like somebody was using individual traffic hits to the site and confusing it with unique traffic hits to the site. That's what it sounded like to me. But again, I'm a tech guy. I kind of know these things. I can kind of assume that, what they were probably saying instead of what they were saying. But again, the more important thing was the fact that this site exists. This academy existed, or it still exists. It's still there, and people are still getting harmed by their husbands. But what did CNN do? Their fact check was more focused on the 62 million men as opposed to being focused on, the actual problem that was going on. So their claim, CNN reported more than 62 million men attended an online rape academy teaching them how to do blah, 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 blah. Mixture, part true, part false. Mixture, part true, part false. It's mostly true. What's true? In March 2026, CNN reported the findings of a month-long investigation into a website that chat group teaching men how to do these nefarious things. The investigation featured reporting images and videos of what was referred to as so-called sleep content on a porn site. One of these users shared a link to how now defunct Telegram chat group called Zzz, according to CNN, to find nearly 1,000 people had joined the discussions. What's false? Social media posts inaccurately claimed that the website had 62 million men attending the academy. That figure, which also came from a CNN article, represented the total number of visits to the site in February. In April 2026, social media users claim CNN reported over 62 million men attended this academy where they were taught how to do these nefarious things. For example, on Twitter, this user posted, the CNN exposes global online academy that teaches men how to do these things. Over 62 million men attended in February alone. The post received 2 million views. The rumor contained a mixture of truth and falsehood. Now, if I was running a website that was fact-checking people, And if I wanted to say, point out the fact that, yes, here's this thing that's going on, but there is a problem with the number being touted, that the 62 million is not unique visitors to the site, but is instead people who are, all of the traffic to the site in one particular month, then I would say that the claims are mostly true, vastly true. I would say that, look, this whole thing is happening in real time. It's happening right now as we speak. People are doing these horrible, nefarious things as we speak, and that report is 100% true. They just got the hits wrong. They just got the web traffic wrong. I wouldn't say it was a mixed bag of true and false. I would say it's mostly true, but here's where the people who are reporting the CNN article are getting it a little bit wrong. But no, instead the fact checkers have to put as much weight on the number of people who use the site as they did on the horrific natures of the crimes that were going on the site. And that's why these fact checkers suck. Because they want to make sure that, we got to make sure that everything's correct, and not giving the proper weight to what's going on. Again, the claim should have been seen as mostly true, with just a slight error of how people were interpreting the data as it pertained to the number of website hits to the site. Simple as that. Let's see. Teeth, Terv, and Dom. I don't know what the username is. 62 men on a site like that is 62 too many. Exactly. But yeah, and it's thousands of men who were participating in that Telegram site. Thousands of men did it. Not just, I still keep doing this thing with my laptop. Thousands of men were taking part of this. Not just 62, thousands of them. Again, men need to do better. Because if you hear that one of your friends, one of your blokes, one of your comrades, one of your pals is even thinking about such things, you need to speak up and tell the person what a piece of shit they are. And say, you need to stop thinking about this until, and if you have evidence that they're doing something wrong, you need to report them to the fucking cops. Not that the cops take rape seriously, because, I have a Liberal Dan U video about that, about how, people just don't come forward because of how the justice system treats victims of rape when they come forward. But, again, men need to do better. Let's see, Catfem says, if I ran CNN, I would never host anything, air anything having to do with Trump and any other light. I'm invisible. That's weird. Why am I invisible? There we go. I disappeared. Let's see, Catfem says, when I hear somebody use the word rapist, I instantly in my mind thought of Grimace. Yeah. Mainstream media is part of the problem because they can't say no anytime. He wants his ass plastered on TV. Oh, that's the Trump thing. Yeah, like the football players that get off on doing such crimes because apparently she was asking for it. We can't ruin his future. What about her future? Yeah, just like, the swimmer with Brock Turner. Can't ruin his future. He just ruined hers. He just completely violated this person. Can't ruin his future. Fuck his future, because he's a horrible human being. Maybe after a few years or more in a jail cell, in a prison cell, maybe he might wake the fuck up and say no. But, typically the people who think that sort of activity is okay are the people who are going to be repeat offenders as well. So, it's BS. Yeah, the 20,000 posts of men assaulting their wives. Yes, exactly. And they should all be in prison. All the people making these videos, all these people who were involved in this content, and the people who run these sites should be helping law enforcement, giving them the IP addresses, giving them the information on who these people are so they could track them down and punish them. Even if it's just for sharing the videos, even if they don't have the proof that it was the individual doing it, if you're sharing these videos, you're a piece of garbage and you deserve to be locked up in prison. But they don't do that because we live in a rape culture. We live in a society where where we make it easier as individuals in society to get away with harming other people. We make it easier for people to get away with sex crimes. It's deplorable, it's horrific, and it's wrong. But that's what we live in. And of course, you have people, we don't live in a rape culture. We don't condone rape. well, you tacitly approve it if you're not going to sit there and punish the people. When you focus on what the person was wearing and if they enjoyed it versus what the other person did to the person in the first place. If you ask the victim if they said no, instead of asking the person who was accused if they got a clear yes, that's part of the problem. And again, if you go watch my Liberal Dan You video that I have on rape culture, you will see the explanation as to why, people are often offended by the whole idea of a discussion of rape culture, because they're like, oh, this is not. But what is a culture? A culture is a place where something grows and thrives. So for example, when you have a strep culture, they swab the back of your throat, they put whatever they found in the back of your throat on the strep culture, and if you have strep, it's going to grow and thrive. It's going to sit there, it's going to be, predominant. It'll grow in that thing, and they'll be like, oh, well, you have strep because this is where strep grows, and I see strep growing, so therefore you have strep. That's what a culture is. Something where something grows and thrives. It actually comes from, like, the old Latin or Greek word that it comes from means to cultivate. It comes from the idea of cultivating crops. So it's where the crops grow and you can cultivate them. So it's a place where things grow and you can cultivate them into your goods that you're harvesting. That's where the term culture comes from. And so, like, when it's pop culture, it's a place where popular things thrive, where popular songs like Taylor Swift, professional wrestling, anything else that is popular in the whole zeitgeist or whatever. It's called pop culture because it's where these popular things thrive. And if it's not popular, it doesn't thrive. So that's why it's called a culture. But people don't want to admit that it's a culture because they want to bury their head in the sand and ignore that the problem exists because they don't think it's going to happen to them. It might. It may very well. Even if you're a guy, it can happen to you. I have several circumstances that I can talk about. Maybe I'll go into more details on some of these things on Liberal Dan After Dark. I don't know. I have talked about the abuse I suffered as a kid on the show. And the only reason I felt comfortable doing that, the only reason I felt comfortable talking about the individual who inappropriately touched me when I was a kid, was the fact that there was a study that came out that said that it is a lie that people who are abused are more likely to abuse when they grow up. Because I was afraid to share that with anybody, because I was afraid that people were going to think that I was going to be somebody who would do that sort of thing after having it done to me, because that was the culture that we lived in. That idea grew and thrived. And why did people spread that rumor? Because it was things that people who were convicted of such crimes would lie. And they gave them lie detector tests, and it determined that they were lying. That they were trying to gain sympathy and think, oh, well, this is why, because it happened to me as a kid, so therefore I didn't know any better, blah, 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 blah. When in reality, you're less likely to be an offender if you're somebody who has suffered at the hands of abuse as a kid. You're not more likely. You're less likely to do it. And that's why I felt comfortable and confident coming forward and explaining that. It's one of the reasons why I'm obese, because there is a strong correlation between childhood abuse and obesity and morbid obesity. You are like twice as likely to be obese or morbidly obese if you were a victim of sexual abuse as a kid, or any sort of abuse as a kid, but especially sexual abuse. When it comes, especially worse for young women. For young women who are abused as kids, a lot of the times they will think, oh, well, they're doing this to me because they're attracted, and as such, I want to make myself less attractive, so they gorge on food to make themselves plumper so they're less attractive to their assailants. But even with, if you're a young person and you don't know how to process what's going on, and you typically don't have access to things like alcohol or drugs or something like that, but you do have access to soda, candy, chips, cookies, etc., and you can binge and gorge on that, and you can shove those feelings down your throat. And that's why you tend to have an unhealthy relationship with food as a kid when you end up being a victim of such abuse, and as such you grow up and you're morbidly obese. Fortunately for me, I have been so far been able to get help. Now, unfortunately, I'm having trouble with my new insurance, trying to deal with the getting my prescription filled for my Zepbound, the medicine that has allowed me to lose 160 pounds. Officially today, I hit 160 today. And this drug has allowed me to lose 160 pounds. And I still have a long way to go. And people are still online, be like, oh, you're fat. Why don't you put down the cheeseburger? Why don't you put down the hamburger? Why don't you do all this? You know what? It's not very surprising that I'm obese. I have mirrors in my house. I know that I'm obese. but I've also lost 160 pounds, so go fuck yourself. And that's what pretty much, the other thing I'll say to those people is like, look, I may be fat, but I've already lost 160 pounds. I can lose more. You're never going to regain brain cells. Those are gone, buddy. You're going to be as stupid now, as stupid then, or stupid in the future as you are now. So thank you, Rob. See, Pam Matthews says, yes, Kaiser Permanente had a weight loss clinic called Positive Choice that explored the role of child sexual abuse and obesity in adults. And yeah, a lot of studies have did that. I used to work at Louisiana Public Health Institute, and when I was there, one of the people gave that study, like basically talked about that high correlation between childhood abuse and obesity, and I went back to my office and immediately broke down and cried. Because I used to think it didn't affect me. I used to think it wasn't that big of a deal, because it wasn't as bad as what other people dealt with, because I have imposter syndrome. And because I put an end to it, because I said, if you do it one more time, once like 8 years old or something, I was like, if you do this one more time, I'm telling mom. And he stopped. It never happened again. But I was still harmed by it. And I didn't realize the levels of the harm that was caused by it until much later in life. And once I realized it, that's when I got emotional about it. And that's why I'm going to sit here and continuously talk about, and I will, look, I can handle the people who come in and make fat jokes against me. I can handle it. I have a thick skin, literally and proverbially, figuratively or whatever. I have a thick skin both ways. I can deal with it. I can handle it. But I know that other people can't. And so I will sit here and I will take that abuse and I will go after the people who treat people like shit for being obese, because I can handle it 99% of the time. There may be maybe 1% of the time where it's just too much for me and I have to just go scream into the void. But normally I'm screaming into the void for other reasons, like, dumbass mistakes that I make as it pertains to my benefits or whatever, that I've talked about that before as well. So James goes, why don't you mind your own fucking business, would be my comeback. I've said that too. Josh says, yay, congratulations, you look great. I've seen it over years. Yeah, so one of the things that's great is that I can sit here and watch some of my videos now. I go back to some of my Twitch shorts. Like people, have made clips of me on Twitch. I've watched some of those clips on Twitch from like even just a year ago. And I'll be like, holy shit, look at my face. Look how big my face was. And now it's much smaller. Thank you, Mud. Let's see, what else? And that's owing Donald Trump's ending programs that permitted us to get the drug at deep discount. Well, the other problem is that Louisiana had a law that had passed, and I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think I remember somebody saying that one of the reasons why you can't do like mail order of GLP-1 drugs from out of state is related to the ban that they wanted to put on mifepristone and other abortion drugs. Like, I don't know what one has to do the other, but the vague wording or the broad wording of these new laws in Louisiana prohibit people from getting, like, from these companies like Roe or Hims or whatever, any of these other companies that will have offer you discounted GLP-1 drugs. You can't use them in Louisiana. They won't ship to you. Now, if it gets to the point where I have to use them anyway, it might very well be cheaper for me to have a post office box and go drive out to, like, right across the border in Mississippi and get a P.O. box and be like, hey, ship it there so I can go pick it up. And then I'll go pick it up from that P.O. box and then come back once a month. I'll go travel to it, get the GLP-1s, then come back across the border to be able to get the drugs that I need, because these drugs have helped me greatly. And the fact that I'm having such a hard time filling them, partially my doctor's office fault, partially the insurance company's fault, and just, partially my old employer's fault, because the old employer decided to go out of business, and as such, I lost the old health insurance plan, which did cover me without problem. So, yeah, Nick. It's 20 past the hour all day today. Yes, smoke them if you got them. But yes, it's 4:20 somewhere, right? Let's see. We had a loophole through compounding pharmacies, and Trump ended that. Fun. Any Dean Warmer fans? Who's a fan of Dean Warmer? Bald Thanos. Somebody tells me I'm fat and dumb and stupid, and I take the compliment. Damon Dog. My Zepbound is shipped from Charleston, South Carolina, Charleston, North Carolina, through the VA pharmacy. FedEx brings it with dry ice. Jeff Curry. I'm trying to gain 10 pounds. Look, dude, you can have 10 of mine. I'll be more than happy to give it to you. So, what else? Let's go back to some of the other comments that we were talking about on here. See, Damon Dog, let's see, Susie Ann Jones, I had gastric bypass and went too far. Damon Dog, I'm 300 a day, down from 370. Is that bound? Congratulations to that. Let's kind of scroll back to what we were talking about earlier. Oh, it's Chris. Okay, I'm sorry, Chris. I forgot that that was you. For some reason, I thought you came up under another name, but maybe it's because of how YouTube changed. Amy Pike, their crimes will not be investigated by the sheriffs. They turned it over because of a memorandum to the prison's private investigatory people who are not investigating any rapes at all. Yep. Unfortunately, that's probably going to be true for many people, and many people in this society do not face justice for their crimes that they commit, especially when it comes to sex crimes. And, you know, that's why we continue to say that we live in a rape culture. I used to be one of the people that said, no, we don't. I used to disagree with the term, but I didn't really understand what the term was. I didn't really understand what it meant. And it kind of, back then, it kind of spawned the idea, what eventually became coming to terms with activism. One of my other playlists here on YouTube. I haven't made one of those in a while. But, you know, people will hear these words like, you know, rape culture, toxic masculinity. They'll hear these words and they'll automatically just push back against them because it goes against what they believe is their worldview. And a lot of the times what I tell, and this is in the first video, the first of the several videos that I have on coming to terms with activism, is, again, I specifically deal with terms that activists use. And one of the things I say is, like, when you hear something that makes you be like, what? That's ridiculous. You need to take a step back and take a breath and just sit here and think, why are they saying that? Maybe look into it. Maybe try and understand why they're saying the things that you're saying. No, I don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with it eventually. But don't just have that gut reaction and fight and push back immediately. Take the time to try and understand it. Like, for example, when I heard the term male fragility, the first time I heard the term male fragility, I was like, what? That's ridiculous. Just because I'm a man, it doesn't mean I'm... And it took me that long to be like, you know what? Maybe it's true. Because just a little slight hearing of a term male fragility got me all fragile. And I realized, okay, maybe this is something that I need to work on for myself, because I had such a bad immediate instinctive reaction to hearing a term that I didn't like. But once I immediately understood that I was being fragile in that very moment, I accepted the term. And if I would have just waited a few seconds, I would have been like, you know what? Yeah, it's right. Because many people like this will react poorly to such things that they hear. Damon, my body is very efficient at storing energy. Mine too. Oh, come on, liberal, fat, drunk, and stupid. That's no way to go through life. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Germans, forget it, he's rolling. Hell no, and it ain't over now. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Who's with me? Let's go. Oh, anyway. Wait, the goddess Kimchi is in the chat. Good to see you. Goddess Kimchi says, hey, beautiful liberals. Say hello to all the Danimals. Catfem, fragile, must be Italian. Yes, nice big leg lamp. So, let's see. We have 89 viewers and 61 likes, so there's still some people who have not smashed that like button, so appreciate you if you do so. Help the algorithm. Al Gore needs more rhythm. Let's see. There's this Reddit post. We're going back to the post where someone posted to Ask Feminists on Reddit. The CNN Rape Academy. Have you read the Snopes critique? Blah, 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 blah. And so you don't find it unsettling that 1,000 men or so in a academy forum that is accessible to 62 million visits a month. That academy quote was linked to a site by a user, which means the platform of 62 billion men, only 1,000 click that link and join it worldwide. Meanwhile, CNN is happily presenting the data in a way which makes people think 62 million men are going, no, that's not what they're doing. Again, that's not what they're doing. But again, these people, this person, Tropic Thunder 5 on Reddit, was not understanding the fact that just because people misinterpreted the information that CNN gave, it doesn't mean that CNN was presenting the information in the way that he's describing it as, or that other people incorrectly took it as. Let's see. My man simply cannot reply to this Twitter without going afoul of Reddit's content policy, I guess. I mean, that typically happens, right? This person who posted it was like, do you realize when you fight like MAGA, you drive people away? Again, that's more male fragility right there. Oh, you can't talk about a thing. You can't be harsh to people because you might drive me away. Oh no, boo-hoo. Suck it up, buttercup. You know, learn to deal with criticism, especially if you're coming in and questioning what happened with this academy. And if you're trying to make excuses or make justifications or try and put the emphasis on the wrong thing, which is, you know, that some people are inaccurately, you know, describing the website hits, and instead focusing on the whole, there's a website that exists that helps people get away with such crimes. So, Troll Slayer Dan, I'll snore if you don't mind. I'll snore them. I don't know, that doesn't flow as well. To talk about sex, setting yourself up for failure, they're literally putting themselves on a list that is the sex offenders registry. Pretty much. Doyle from The Misfits was like, it's fine, I'll lose fans for having empathy. Yep. And look, if I'm gonna lose fans, if fewer people are gonna subscribe to my channel because I have empathy, because I will criticize men when we need to criticize, because I will say that men need to do better when it comes to a vast many things in this society, I'm just not gonna grow as much. But I'm not going to sell my soul for views or for subscriptions or whatever. I'm going to try and get as many good people on my channel as possible who will come in, or people who at least just want to learn. I'm not going to say they're bad people, but if you don't know and you want to learn, great, come in. And even if we disagree, you don't have to be necessarily a bad person, but, you know, there are some people who just are going to come and be horrible people and whatever. But, again, we do want to grow organically. We'd like to see the growth happen more, which is why I need to help the algorithm. Like, share, subscribe, not just this video, but all the other videos that I have up on liberaldanradio.com to be able to, you know, check out the music videos. If you haven't heard the music videos yet, there are several music videos to listen to. Check out all the other content, Liberal Dan U, the Liberal Dan Radio Investigates, some of the other stuff that I've been leveraging AI to use to put out a lot more content. And remember, there's going to be a special treat on May 5th. Let's see. Jan Morgan, Don Old bankrupted 4 casinos and now the world. Rump demands humiliation. I mean, yes, he should be humiliated, but again, we're going to remind everybody that Donald Trump bankrupting casinos is not an example of him being an inept businessman. He may very well be an inept businessman, but Donald Trump bankrupting casinos is an example of him being a con man, him using the casinos, getting people to do work for those casinos, and then declaring bankruptcy with those casinos after he cashed out the money from those casinos so that he could profit and leave other people holding the bag. That's what happened with Donald Trump's bankruptcies, in my opinion. And the media should have done a better job explaining that. Instead, they tried to put him up as a failed business person, and then people who are his supporters will look at him and be like, oh, but he's a billionaire. Or at least he's, at the time, was a multi-hundred millionaire. He's got a lot of money. How is he a failed businessman if he has all that money still? And it allowed the people to ignore the con, where if the media would have simply reported the con as what it was, which is the con, we would have been better prepared to explain all of the other actions that are going on today, like him, oh, we're going to do tariffs. Oh, we're not going to do tariffs. Oh, we're going to put tariffs in. So they announce they're going to put tariffs in, they buy, and then they announce the tariffs, or no, maybe they short the stocks. They announce the tariffs are going to come in, the stocks tank, they then buy the shares that they short sold, and then they buy more shares, and they say, okay, we're going to reduce the tariffs now, and then the stocks go back up, and then they sell. Lather, rinse, repeat, get a whole shit ton of money. And there's a little bit of information from the friend of mine I was talking about that actually has the data, has the proof there, that we'll be going over on one of the next shows to actually show how many transactions have taken place in the stock market right immediately before these announcements were taking place on Twitter or on Truth Social or other forms of social media. Same thing with the oil. Make a decision, announce that there's going to be a ceasefire. Oil prices drop. Oh, buy oil. Now we're going to blockade Iran. Oil prices back up. Oh, we're going to, we're coming close to a peace deal. Oil prices go down. Oh, we're not close to a peace deal anymore, so now we're going to have to, we might continue the attack on Iran. Prices go up. Lather, rinse, repeat. And again, they don't care about high gas prices because, like, A, Donald Trump never drives. He gets driven around everywhere. But B, when you're that rich, you don't give a crap about the price of gas. You don't give a crap about the price of oil as it pertains to your travel. You give a crap about the price of oil as it pertains to your profits, as it pertains to your portfolio of your assets that you own. That's why you care about gasoline prices. That's why you care about oil prices, because you want to make money off of it, to the detriment of the people who are working class folks who do have to pay gas, who do care about the price of gasoline, and who are harmed by these market manipulations and the instability and insecurity that comes with his playing yo-yo with all of these numbers and figures, etc. Because it's not Trump always chickens out, it's Trump always cons others, and he constantly has the con running. So, should be calling this the yo-yo administration. That might be a good thing. Let's see. Josh C says, it cost me over $60 to fill my tank this weekend. I was surprised that my Kia Soul, I had to fill up it took me 40 to fill up. I mean, I was on fumes, but it took me that much. I was shocked that I hit $40 to fill up that tank, like $11 or so. And I'm in New Orleans. New Orleans in the South, our gas prices are cheaper than a lot of other places. We're not $4 a gallon yet. We're like $3.40, $3.60-ish. So we're better off than the rest of the nation because we're so close to the Gulf. But then again, remember, Donald Trump at his gaggle the other day, and we dealt with this, and there's a short on this that has up on the Liberal Dan Radio Shorts. It's also on Instagram. It's also on Facebook. It's also on TikTok, where all of the shorts get uploaded to. Where we showed, Donald Trump said the quiet part out loud. Because again, he claims that he doesn't like the turbines or the windmills because he wants to protect the birds and the whales.
A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them while golfing on Scottish hills.
Anyway, so he said the quiet part out loud, which was when you have these solar energy and wind energy, it causes the big oil producers to go out of business. So that's what he's worried about. He doesn't give a shit about the birds. He doesn't give a shit about the whales. He does give a shit about not wanting to see windmills and turbines off of the Scottish resort that he owns. But he cares more about making sure that oil prices remain high, because that's what it's about. That's why thank you, Alyosha, for the bits. That's why the oil industry, and I think I have a video that's already posted about this. If I don't, it should be soon. Sometimes I forget which ones I've already produced and which ones still have to be uploaded. If it's not there already, it should be there soon, which is that the fact that big oil doesn't want you to have oil, or to have oil alternatives, to have energy alternatives. They don't want you to have, solar and wind and geothermal and other forms of renewable energy. Because if you have those forms of energy, what then happens? What then happens is this. Demand for oil goes down. Demand for fossil fuels goes down, which means the price goes down, and you can no longer make as much profit off of the oil as you would have previously when you don't have those alternative energies. So they don't want those energies, those alternative forms of energy taking place. They don't want them grabbing a foothold in society, because they're afraid that once they grab a foothold, that they're not going to be able to make as much money, not going to be able to make as much profit. And so Donald Trump is protecting those oil manufacturers, the big oil industry, because he wants to make sure that they can continue to make lots of money at our expense. I have solar panels on my house. It costs me $75 a month, like the financing or whatever it is, whatever it went through. It's costing $75 a month for the solar panels. It has saved me much more than $75 a month on average, comparatively. Like, there were some summer months before the solar panels where my energy bills went over $600, and I don't think I've ever had a month where I've gone over $300 at this point. And even that is, I think on the high end. So I have saved a whole shit ton of money by being able to use solar power. There's some days where I put electricity back onto the grid and my solar charges are negative, because that's what you're allowed to do. At least here in New Orleans, if you make too much energy that you're not using it, you're able to put it back on the grid, and you gain, I guess, a little bit of money from it, or you offset some of the days where you haven't been able to put more on the grid than what you took out of it, right? Let's see. Fan said he could have just asked them to have them painted, and smart people in the oil and fossil fuel industries are looking for ways out of it because they know demand is on the way out anyway. Tricia Eastman, with all of the investments they've made on PACT money and buying the senators in the House of Representatives, they could have invested in R&D and then be way ahead of the renewable energy shift. They could have chose to stick with the old habits, and they're going to lose in the end, hopefully. I am renting and paying a fixed rate. I'm not sure if it's rent or lease. I forget that part of the thing, because it was better for me to do it this way than it was the other way. I couldn't justify the other way at this point because I didn't have the, didn't have the funds to put down or whatever and to make that purchase all up front. So, Jan, thank you very much for the great opinion. Appreciate you. That opinion will probably be part of a short that will be shareable at some point in the near future. Josh, I'm going to count backwards when I hit 50. Well, that's happening for me next month. I become the big 5-0 in May. So, haha. Let's see. We have whales and birds and wind turbines. He's an idiot. Yes, he is. He is a stupid motherfucker. And a lot of people are like, a lot of people have posited that perhaps, there's talk about Donald Trump trying to convince Thomas and Alito to resign so that he can get to name 2 more younger Supreme Court justices that'll be on there for a longer term. And look, I would love to see Alito go as much as the next guy. Alito is probably the dumbest motherfucker we've had on the Supreme Court ever. For the history of the Supreme Court. If you can find one that's dumber, I would love to hear it, and I'd love to hear why, because Alito is a fucking moron. But yeah, there's rumblings that it might be made into like a campaign issue. That's kind of like their safety valve. They're like, well, if all else fails, let's get Alito or Thomas to resign. So therefore, we'll be able to, make it a campaign issue. You can't let the Democrats take the Senate back, otherwise Donald Trump's not going to get to name his Supreme Court justices. Do you really want to see X, Y, and Z happening? Blah, 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 blah. And of course, we have to, bring back up, Dr. Jesus Trump, the whole sacrilegious thing. We have to bring up the threats to take out 93 million people, or at least make Iran inhospitable to life for the 93 million people who live there. We have to remind everybody the tariffs that they paid. Oh, well, people got back a whole bunch of money in their taxes. No, they didn't. The wealthy got a whole bunch of money back on their taxes. The poor's just are continuing to be poor. They might have gotten a little bit extra in their taxes, but they're having to pay even more for the tariffs that they've had to pay. So whatever was saved in the increased tax refunds has been lost by, the tariffs that they have to pay for his stupid goddamn policies. Illinois offers credits for residential generation. Can pull out what's been banked for use when needed. I bought my solar panels outright. Bill has been about $20 a month for the connection and grid maintenance fees since, and I'm recouping costs faster than rates went up. Figured about 5 to 6 years at the outset, probably down to 4 years now. That's pretty awesome. Exactly, or Willoughby. He would appoint Eileen Cannon, and that, I think at that point, Eileen Cannon might very well be a candidate to make Alito no longer be the stupidest Supreme Court justice in court history. But she hasn't gotten there yet, and because she hasn't gotten there yet, she doesn't have that title. But if anybody wants to compete for dumbest Supreme Court justice ever and take the title away from Alito, I have full faith that Eileen Cannon would absolutely be able to do that. Jan Morgan says it's $6 in California. Ugh. So a fan said, I don't know. Thomas is in tight competition with Alito already. Look, I'm not saying that Thomas is smart. I mean, he's made some, he's sitting there. Maybe he's an evil genius in the fact that, he's trying to get out of his marriage to his wife by trying to suggest that Loving versus Virginia was not constitutionally sound, and as such could make his marriage just go away if they do manage to overturn Loving versus Virginia. But that being said, Clarence Thomas didn't write Dobbs v. Jackson. Clarence Thomas didn't write Lily Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire. Clarence Thomas didn't write Salinas v. Texas. What's the other one? Justice Thomas didn't write Burrell versus Hobby Lobby. Those 4 rulings are the main rulings that I will put up there to show that Justice Alito is a big fucking moron. And what was great was when we reviewed the leaked ruling. When we reviewed initially that ruling, for anybody who's new to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right, Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central. What you might have missed back then is we were just going over the ruling line by line after it was leaked, because I had to do a show and I had to do my analysis of it, because even though I'm not an attorney, there are a lot of attorneys who will say that I have a good understanding of the law for a layperson. And we're going over these comments, and I'm just sitting there like, this ruling is so bad, I wouldn't be surprised if Alito wrote at least one of the rulings between Burrell versus Hobby Lobby, Lily Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire, or Salinas versus Texas. And then I went and looked it up, and he wrote all 3. And I was like, see, this is the shit that I know. I could tell that he wrote those other rulings because of how badly this one was written. And then, when we actually came back around, when the actual ruling was released and you had the concurrences, or not the concurrences, but you had the dissents from like Elena Kagan, Sotomayor, etc. When they had those dissents, all the comments that were made in the dissent were things that I said in my initial video. Were my criticisms of the ruling. So I was like, look, I'm in good company. If my analysis of Dobbs v. Jackson matched the dissent from the 3 good Supreme Court justices on the court, guess what? I think I know what I'm talking about, right? I'll have to pat my own back on that one. But just as a brief reminder as to what all those other rulings were, because we all know Dobbs v. Jackson overturned Roe v. Wade. And one of the things that Dobbs v. Jackson said multiple times was Alito was complaining that abortion is not a right that's enumerated in the Constitution, which means he forgot the 9th Amendment, because the 9th Amendment specifically states that you don't need to enumerate a right for it to be protected for the individuals that are protected by the Constitution in this country, aka everybody. So that was that. That was Dobbs v. Jackson. Burrell versus Hobby Lobby is what allowed Hobby Lobby to not have to cover oral contraception as it pertained, and some forms of whatever the what's the word I'm looking for? Maneuvering, whatever it is that you get to that's longer term contraception that is inserted. Why am I forgetting what it is? I want to say IVF, but it's not. Somebody's going to say it. It's not contraception. I was actually conceived with one in my mother. That's how stubborn I am. I was conceived with an IUD. That's it, an IUD. That's as soon as I said it, Dragon Rider said it in the chat on Twitch, and so did 250 kilo ohm and Josh Sees. Yes, I was conceived with an IUD, and they pulled out the IUD, and I was born. So, and when I found that out, I went to my mom, or my mom told me that, and I was like, so I was unwanted? Jokingly. And she was like, you weren't unwanted, you were unplanned. And then I go talk to my dad. I was like, Dad, I found out that when I was conceived, there was an IUD, and so I was unwanted. And my dad goes, you were not unwanted, you were unplanned. And I was like, even though y'all have been divorced for forever, y'all planned that immediately. Y'all knew what to say. Y'all had that in the can, ready to go as soon as I found out. But anyway, Burrell versus Hobby Lobby, again, would say, would cause Hobby Lobby to not have to cover certain forms of IUD, not have to cover certain forms of contraception, simply because of the fact that they wanted to claim that these forms of contraception prevented a fertilized embryo from implanting to the uterine wall, which they felt was the moral equivalent to an abortion. Now, it's not an abortion because they're not pregnant yet because it hasn't implanted. But one of the problems is that there's no evidence to show that once a fertilized egg is there, that birth control pills stop the implantation. They only work to stop fertilization or ovulation or fertilization. That's how they work. It used to be the thought that it also prevented implantation, but studies for a long time have showed that there's no evidence of this taking place. And the Hobby Lobby was allowed to state a religious opinion as scientific fact in order to get away and get around not having to cover contraception that was required to be covered under the Affordable Care Act. So that was bullshit, and that was a stupid thing by Alito. And then, of course, you had Lilly Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire. And in Lilly Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire, you had the ruling that basically said that you have to be psychic in order to determine you were getting paid a discriminatory wage. And basically they said the clock on when to file a lawsuit for discriminatory wages started the first time that discriminatory paycheck got paid. If you didn't find out for 10 years, tough shit. That's what Alito said, at least. Now, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was still alive at the time, still in the court, in her dissent, basically said that there is already judicial precedent, there's already Supreme Court precedent that says that each payment of a discriminatory wage is a discrete act and an individual act of discrimination. So the clock should reset every time you get paid. But Alito didn't want to do that because he wanted to protect the discriminators. So Lilly Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire came around, denied Lilly Ledbetter her ability to sue or to get compensated for being paid a discriminatory wage. And then Congress, under President Obama, fortunately, did pass legislation that overturned that ruling because Lilly Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire was not based on a constitutional thing, but was an interpretation of the law as written, incorrect interpretation of the law as written, but they made sure to word the law correctly now, and the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act that was passed in the Obama administration, they were able to then make it so that each payment of a discriminatory wage reset that clock to make sure that Lilly Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire was no longer the law of the land because the current law of discriminatory wages was now changed to make that ruling obsolete. And then, of course, Salinas versus Texas, my old favorite from Justice Alito. There was a guy, Salinas, who was not arrested by police, not detained by the police, but was invited to come for questioning. And at some point during the questioning, Salinas decided that he was not going to continue to answer questions, and he got up and he left. Right? That's your right under the Constitution. You have the right to remain silent. Now, of course, he wasn't under arrest, so he wasn't Mirandized. When you're arrested, you are assumed to not be knowledgeable enough of the Constitution where the police officers are required to tell you what your rights are now that you're under arrest, that you have the constitutional right to remain silent, that anything can be said that you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, that you have a right to an attorney, etc., etc. But when you're being simply questioned, they don't have to Mirandize you. But he still said, okay, I'm no longer going to answer these questions, and he stopped talking and he walked away. The prosecution used his silence against him as proof of guilt. Even though he has the right to remain silent and the right to not self-discriminate under the Constitution, the courts and the Supreme Court agreed and said that his silence could be used against him in a court of law, and that since he wasn't under arrest, that in order for him to utilize his right to remain silent, that he would have to invoke those words, aka he would have to speak. In order for you to use your right to remain silent, you have to say something. How fucking stupid is that? This is why I will continue to say that Justice Alito is the stupidest Supreme Court justice that has ever existed on the Supreme Court, because he was responsible for all four of those rulings. And I'm sure there's more. I'm sure we could find other Alito rulings that are just as bad. In fact, now I want to kind of do that. I want to go look up and see which rulings were by Alito and just go just how bad they are. So, see, Sunflower Dragon, if you haven't been arrested yet and the nice officer tells you to not say anything else, follow instructions. I've told my kids this. I've told my kids, look, if you're in trouble and need help, absolutely go ask a police officer for help. Especially because you're young white boys and you're most likely not going to be in trouble. But if a police officer starts asking you questions before you answer their questions, you ask to speak to us. You say that you're not going to speak to them until you speak with us, And then we will get an attorney and we will talk over what the hell's going on and make sure that you don't say anything that's going to get you incriminated. Because my mom is a social worker and she investigated crimes against children. And some of the things that, you know, they would ask these questions, the police would ask these questions like, oh, she said you only did this. And oh, no, I only did, they said you did this, this, and this. And the guy's like, I only did this. Oh, you just admitted to doing that. Good. You're now under arrest. So, Big Hook, I refuse to speak without my lawyer present and I don't consent to a search or impairment test. What's the rules in Canada as it pertains to taking an impairment test? Can you be punished in Canada and have your license taken away from you if you refuse an impairment test? I mean, you can do that. You can refuse to take the test in here in America, but at least in some states, if you refuse to take the test, they can strip you of your license because they say your license is not a right but a privilege and blah 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 blah. So therefore, you can free yourself from incrimination, but they're still going to take your ability to drive away from you. So, Christine, I taught my kids to answer their questions with one word: lawyer. Exactly. Thank you, 250 Kilo Ohm, for the nice factoids. Appreciate you. I mean, one of the things that Big Hook says is that I have an eidetic memory, and I can recall a bunch of shit. And sometimes it's just random knowledge, like pulling out random movie quotes out of my ass, or citing the entire rant from Dennis Leary's I'm an Asshole, which I did the other day on the show. But sometimes it's actually remembering things that happen politically, and that's beneficial for the podcast. Although, me being able to rant the asshole rant also was, you know, amusing for the podcast as well, right? Yes, lots of YouTube videos on the subject, and it usually ends badly for the non-cop person. Exactly. Jolie, I was arrested 3 times for drinking underage, never spoke a word, got out of it all 3 times. Well, you were a smart cookie. And even my mom would say the same thing. My mom did 2 things about young drinking. Furthermore, she was like, look, I'll be more mad at you for getting in a car with a drunk driver or for driving a car drunk yourself than I will for you calling me up and telling me that you're drunk and you need me to pick you up. So you'll be in more trouble for that than the other one. And she probably wouldn't have punished me at all, or maybe punished me much less, but I would have been more in trouble as a kid if I would have gotten in a drunk driving car or drove a car drunk myself instead of, you know, calling her. So there's that. But she also was because she worked as a social worker and because she worked with police officers, she also made sure very clearly to say that, call my mother, don't talk to the cops, say you want to speak to your mother, say you want to speak to your parents, say you want to speak to somebody who's an adult who's not who's you're related to, like one of your parents and or a lawyer, because you don't want to say anything that's going to get you in trouble in front of a police officer. So, Jolie, one of my teachers gave me that advice. Man, those teachers, that's hilarious. They got that advice from a teacher. James, I lost my license for a year for refusing a test. What was the point? I screwed up by driving buzz. I mean, yeah, you screwed up and you paid for it that way instead of paying for it the longer term way, whereas you get a DUI, right? Of course, yeah, you shouldn't do it at all. And, you know, I don't do it either. Like if I go out and I'm drinking, I will wait a while before getting back in the car, or I'll make sure I have a designated driver. So Big Hook says you can refuse, and if you test negative afterwards, you can sue for false imprisonment. You have to provide an ID, but you can refuse to answer questions without a lawyer present. So Canada seems to respect those rights better than the United States does, apparently, because the United States will punish you for refusing, basically. Or rumor, my friend got caught drunk driving with no DL when he was 15. He got drafted to NAM, but the recruiter found that record and rejected him. Man, talk about, you know, doing something bad and having it help you. So, yeah. So in many states, it's legal-ish to drink with your parents. There was one time I was working at Pat O's, and I think it could be down to... I think the rule used to be you could be 16 with your parents or whatever. I don't know. But there was twice working at Pat O'Brien's, and I worked on the restaurant side, which is on Bourbon Street, and it was like one of the cases. It was like 2 women and their 2 daughters, and they're like, "Can we have 4 hurricanes, please?" And I was like, "I need to see their ID." and the woman pulled out the ID but was covering the face, so it wasn't the daughter's ID, it was the mom's ID. And I was like, that's cute, but I need to see the face too. And she was like, okay, well, how about, I was like, if they're underage, I can offer them virgin hurricanes, which is basically the hurricane mixed with fruit juice instead of the hurricane mixed with rum. And they said, okay. And then, so I served the ones in the cups and the other ones in the glasses, so you knew. And then they did some shenanigans and poured the alcoholic drinks into their kids' drinks, and then ordered 2 more. And I went to my manager and I was like, can we kick these guys out? Because they're trying to violate the law and get me in trouble by having me serve minors. And we did. And then there was another example. That was at night. And I remember the exact table too. It was a 4-top right by the bar. And then there was another smaller 4-top that was by the wall. And it was like, again, parents with their 2 younger kids, like younger teens or whatever. Maybe one was 17, maybe one was 15 or something. Again, not old enough to drink in Louisiana. And they're like, can we have such and such drinks or whatever? And I was like, I need to see their IDs. Oh, they're not of age. Well, then I can't serve them. And then they started allowing their kids to drink drinks. And then I told the manager, and the manager came over and he was like, look, we cannot allow you to have these drinks and drink them here. If you would like to take them to go, we can't tell you what to do outside of the restaurant. But then the first thing they did is they started going to the bathroom in groups with their drinks so that the kid could get drunk, I guess. Like, why is it that important for you to have your kids drink? Like, why is it that important to you? I'm like, that shouldn't be a priority in your life, to helping your kids get drunk. They'll have plenty of times when they're in college or older to get drunk by themselves. You don't need to encourage that. But, you know, as old Trumpy boy says,
It is what it is.
So Trisha Eastman, I worked at Montalbano's on Bourbon Street. I don't even know, is that still open? Let's see. There's Mambo's. Bourbon's, let's see. Montalbo restaurant was closed. Let's see. A restaurant located at 724 St. Philip Street in New Orleans. It was dedicated to President Franklin Roosevelt. Let's see. It was. It was closed at some point, but I don't know. For this one, it's not saying what it was. Come on. Let's see. Trying to see. I'm trying to see when it was closed. I don't know. Anyway, I don't think it's open anymore. As there's a song that Benny Grunch and the Bunch, a local silly music group, would sing, and it was just "Ain't There No More," and it would sing all about the stuff that ain't there no more. So, yeah. So if you refuse breath, they usually draw blood. Just with Tiger, of course, you have to get I think you have to get a judicial warrant to be able to do that, and of course, that gives you more time to be able to get away with it, right? So. It was a seafood restaurant. Probably. Let's see. It was in the 80s. Yeah, I wasn't here at the time, so I wouldn't know. I didn't come down here till 94. Of course, when I got to here in Louisiana in 94, the drinking age here was still 18. Technically. You could hold a drink at 18. You could drink the drink at 18. You technically were not allowed to buy the drink at 18, but they were allowed to sell it to you. You wouldn't get in trouble for selling it to you. So we were told that like one of the first days we were in our freshman dorm. And then a group of us went down to the Rat Skelter down at Tulane University. And I went and ordered a pitcher of beer. And the bartender's like, can I see your ID? I gave her, at that time I had my passport. I was like, here's my passport. And she goes, you're only 18. I was like, the rule is, I'm like, I understand what the rule is. So what you're telling me though, is that if that guy over there were to buy us a pitcher of alcohol, a pitcher of beer, that he could bring it to us at our table, and we could all drink it, and it would be fine. She goes, you can get technical with me? I was like, damn straight. She goes, all right, I'll sell you the beer. I made sure to tip her as well, because, you know, I'm a good person. But I came back, and they were like, whoa, I can't believe you did that. That may very well have been the first beer I ever bought ever in my life. So it wasn't like I was like this professional drink or whatever. I just, you know, should have been an attorney way back then. In fact, I actually wanted to be an attorney when I was in high school. I was saying, oh, maybe I should be a lawyer. So it was based off the fact that I played this one game that had a rule book like this big, and they called us rules lawyers. And I was like, man, if I could, do well with this game, maybe I should be an attorney because I'm good at cross-referencing all the rules or whatever. And my mom was like, you don't have the killer instinct to be an attorney. I'm like, well, thanks, Mom. Thanks for the vote of confidence there. And so years later, as I'm talking about all this legal stuff, as I'm talking about constitutional rights, as I'm posting videos about how I respond to Supreme Court precedents, my mom goes, why did you never become an attorney? I was like, you told me not to. You said I lacked the killer instinct. She was like, oh, my bad. So, Troll Slayer, I'm putting Sparkler Verse, our Danimal anthem we knew and had Biden done it on my plays with your permission, of course. You don't need my permission. Except for the Liberal Dan song, like the one that the last one that plays when I open the show. All of the rest of them, I think, are on Spotify. So you're more than welcome to get them, to download them or whatever, or rip it off of YouTube. Share the hell out of them too. So absolutely, you should. But I love the fact that Sparkler Verse, we knew, and had Biden done it in my plays. That is just great, and I want those to go viral because I think, especially had Biden done it, that one is just, that one is most people's favorites, I think.
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, the screen fell play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Trisha's like, my mom's bad was when I wanted to play the drums. I guess she didn't say you could play the drums. Look, if you learned to play the drums, you could have been the next drummer for Rush after Neil Peart passed away. Because now Rush has Annika, who is the new drummer who's going to be on the tour with Rush. So Christina's like, that's my favorite. I have one friend of mine whose favorite is the Baby Incubator song about the whole woman who was kept alive in Georgia in order to, be a baby incubator. She thought that one was, and look, that one is really well done. I mean, ChatGPT wrote most of those lyrics except for the chorus, and I threw it into the music engine. It was a great song, absolutely. But had Biden done it, is more catchy, and We Knew is also very catchy. The Sparkleverse song is so catchy that sometimes it gets in my head too much, and I need to play something else to get it out of my head. And usually that thing is We Knew. Usually We Knew helps me get the Sparkleverse theme out of my head, which is why I play the Sparkleverse first and then I play We Knew. So 79 current viewers, 67 likes still. Please make sure to smash that like button. We have 5 new members. Appreciate for the gifting of the memberships. And also we have $4.99 in chat revenue. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. Smoky Mirror, I love your show. Thank you so much. I love that you're here. But yeah, the rules changed in New Orleans. They tried to change it when I was just about to turn 20, or right after I turned 20, and my fraternity's national convention was in town, and they had a bunch of lawyers there, and they worked really, really hard to get to beat that law, so to make sure that the people who were part of the fraternity would be able to enjoy the New Orleans rules as New Orleanians do. But then they finally passed the ban and got it up to the age of 21 on May 1st of the year that I turned 21. And I turned 21 on May 20th. So there was 19 days where I was not able to drink legally in New Orleans. And then right after midnight, I went to the bar and I showed the ID. Oh, we got a second kitty. Hey, Rose. What's up, Rosie Posies? So I showed my ID, and the guy's like, this isn't May 20th, it's May 19th. I'm like, it's after midnight, it's May 20th. He's like, oh, well then come on in. Maria, thank you. Marie, thank you so much for gifting 10 Liberal Dan memberships. Appreciate you. Anybody who got it that I would recognize? Most of them not, but hey, it still supports the channel. So thank you. Maybe it'll get those people back in and watching because, they got the notification on their email that they were able to become a member. Rose, are you going to show your face, or are you just going to be up a shoulder dragon that doesn't show her face? There you are, Rosie Pose. Look at you. Look at my sweet Rose, who only snuggles with me when she wants scritches. You going to show everybody your butthole now? No? We'll see. There was the great time when I had my hand right here, and she eventually pulled my hand closer to her to get me to scratch. I'm going to see if she, oh, nope, she's just going to lean into the hand. Let's see if I can put it forward even more and see if she will pull the hand in closer. Nope, she's still just going to scratch herself there. Yes, I'm a scratching post for my kitty. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to be a scratching post whenever she wants it, not whenever I want to give her snuggles. Now, she'll snuggle up next to her mommy, of course, because like, she loves her mommy more than me, apparently. But I'm good enough when mommy's not here, right? So, let's see, what was it? Orb Boomer says, you punks in chat, I was here, 5th annual Kite Fly on April 13th, 1975 at Aviation Field in Forest Park. They opened a headliner for the Charlie Daniels Band. That's crazy. In front of an estimated of 80 to 100,000. That's nuts. One Cold Joel got a membership. Nice. Come on. Hey, Frida, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you. See, Big Hook says, remember, police are never your friend. They are tax collectors to extend their abuse of power. Yep. And look, I have a video in one of the coming to terms to activism videos that I have. One of them talks about ACABs, all cops are bastards. And during that video, I was not yet to the point where I would say all cops are bastards. But I did agree with most of the points that were made by those folks who said it. I was like, look, these are the reasons why people say it, and I agree with all of these points, but there are exceptions. But I've since basically grown to the idea that the exceptions to the rule proves the rule, and if I'm going to use that argument for various other things, I should also use it for the ACAB. So if there are an example, like for example, there was one cop that one time tried to turn in the corruption of her own police department, and she ended up getting shit canned. So for a second, she was a good cop, but she's the exception that proves the rule that all cops are bastards. So I'm going to continue saying that at this point because I agree. At this point because I agree with the reasoning why. Bye, Rose. Rose went away. Let's see. Orb, I was also at Rush Caress of Steel and Heart opened. That would have been an awesome concert. I would have loved to have seen that one. My first Rush concert was on the Roll the Bones tour, and who opened for them was Mr. Big, and I was just like, ugh, I hate Mr. Big. Mr. Big's terrible. But then I think all the other tours that I went and saw Rush, I don't think they ever had an opener at that point. I think it was, or I don't think they had anybody opening for them. I don't think they were opening for anybody else. It was just Rush and Rush alone. I saw Snakes and Arrows. I saw Clockwork Angels. I saw Time Machine. I think the Time Machine tour was when they redid Moving Pictures in its entirety. I did Rush 40. I did the Rush 40 tour. Did I say Snakes and Arrows already? If I didn't say Snakes and Arrows, I did Snakes and Arrows. There was the tour that was in like maybe 95 or 96. That came to New Orleans. I went to that one at the UNO Lakefront Arena. I forget what that tour was called. All I know is I remember them opening with Dreamline, and I've never heard them play Dreamline since, and that's one of my favorite songs. So I'm very much hoping that they play Dreamline. I especially hope that they open with Dreamline. I'll be very happy. Because one of the things that I did do when I got my new job and I was getting a pay increase and I was able to get, a little bit of pay in between, like combination of pay between old job and new job, I bought myself something special, and that was 2 tickets to go see Rush on my drive up to Baltimore for Thanksgiving break. So, Marie, oh, you got your Rush tickets for New York City. Can't wait. I almost tried to go to that one, but it was just like, no, I can't do it. I would have rather have gone to the Atlanta show, and it would have been easier visiting family. But unfortunately, no, not going to be able to do that. So, Jan, when did conservatism turn into a fascist movement? Did it start with Reagan? I think fascism has always been a conservative movement. But when did American conservatives start turning to fascism? Maybe Nixon. It's hard to tell. It's hard to say an exact point, because it's kind of like, when did the party switch? The party switch didn't happen. Like a lot of times people will say, oh, the parties didn't switch. That's a myth. No, the parties did switch. I have a video on that too on Liberal Dan U. Just go to Liberal Dan U playlist and you can see that the parties did in fact switch. But it wasn't like a single thing. Oh, they just swapped chairs. It wasn't like jersey swaps in the middle of an arena where like one team gets traded to the other team and vice versa. It took place over time. Like you had Strom Thurmond, who was the Dixiecrat, who went from being a Democrat to a Dixiecrat to a Republican. You had other Democrats who switched. You have Ronald Reagan who said, I didn't leave the Republican Party, the Democratic Party. It left me. I don't do a very good Reagan imitation. I can do whale, but that's about it. So it was a long, drawn-out process that caused the party switch to happen. So just like that, so fascism doesn't tend to like hit instantly. It kind of creeps in and sneaks up on you. So the things that would take place during that would lead to fascism was just slowly building within the Republican Party to the point where now we're here. Lexi Troll Slayer, I did it. I'm trying to do because my play. I'm trying to use them to make points. Sparkler verse because I find those shows along with their themes and we knew for the madness. Okay. Let's see. Nixon, the Dixie Crouch joined the Republicans. Do you mean Dixiecrats or whatever? But yeah. The Nixon was the first one to use the Southern strategy, which basically went to the South and said, look, all of these disaffected formerly Southern Democrats are now angry at the Democratic Party for supporting civil rights, so we're going to come in and woo them to the Republican Party. And that's why the red states now in the South are the same states that were slaveholder states, because they've always been conservative states. So a 15-year process from 1965 to 1980. I think it's even a longer process than that. I think it started even before 1965, and I think it continued on well past 1980. So I would say that you're correct in those years, but just make the years longer. So let's see. I've got it. Hashtag mode. See y'all next time. Have a good night. Appreciate you, Trisha. Thank you for joining the show. Thank you so much. Let's see. Anyway, 82 viewers, 70 likes, so a couple new likes have happened, so thank you so much for that. Please make sure to continue to like the show and go actually watch some Free to Love. When was greed created? Well before the creation of the United States of America, that's for damn sure. The moment people decided that they could own other people and make them do work for them and not have to pay them. And maybe even before that, because you then had to figure out that before you actually started owning slaves, right? So greed has been around for a very, very, very long time. So, anyway, let's see, anything else? Kiss played a legendary early daytime concert at the KSHE 95 Kite Flying Force Park. Let's see, they're never organized by the radio station. This free concert featured an estimated crowd of 40,000 to over 100,000, serving as one of the largest audiences for the band. I did get to see Kiss once. It was a free concert, I think, in front of some NCAA tournament thing that took place here in New Orleans. So, but slavery existed a long time before money did. And still, it's still an example of greed, because you're still getting something of benefit just for owning people. So, let's see. Damn, it's 10:14. I didn't think I'd even go that long. Anyway, I'm probably not going to open up the phone lines then. I'm probably just going to call it a night. But we will go ahead and play some of the music, including the Sparkler verse, including We Knew, and including Had Biden Done It Again. So if you want to hear more of the great Liberal Dan Radio, Talk From Left, That's Right music, I welcome you to just hang around and listen for a couple more minutes. We will be back here 8 p.m. Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel. Just come on, tune in, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like the video if you haven't liked it on the way out, make sure to go watch some other videos as well, share some of the videos that you like, especially the music. If you like the songs, share it. I've actually started using, like one of the things I've been doing on TikTok, at least today, and I'm going to try and do it now more often, is when a Republican or a conservative or a MAGA type tries to sit here and tell me about all the things that they would have criticized, but what about Biden? I then will explain why the whataboutism is stupid and then say, but look, you would have criticized Biden for doing these things, but you wouldn't have done it for Trump. So that's why, for those examples, we end up playing the whole song in the background of...
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, that scream foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Lord Rumor, Big Hook was on hold all night for nothing. He wasn't on hold. Nobody even called in because I never opened up the phone lines. So anyway, thank you all so much. Appreciate you. Let's start off with as we leave, to the Welcome to the Sparklerverse song, and we'll play a couple other ones from there. Appreciate y'all for coming. Thank you for joining. Have a great one. Peace.
House Sparks running boy on the mic tonight, breaking down the chaos with you, mine. straight through the gloom. Then Liberal Dan arrives with rhetorical might, bringing you talk from the left. That's right. Hypocrites and rednecks he will smite, but that after dark show is nowhere in sight. Welcome to the Sparklerverse. Please subscribe, cause the trolls get toasted and truth survives. It's a worldwide bar for the curious mind. Pull up a chair, you'll fit just fine. Spitting facts wicked hard. You're calling out nonsense right in the yard. If they take gate logic, can't back the car. Then he dunks on bad takes like a Sox all-star. Fill up in a bringing the world to view. Frontline updates straight from Ukraine to Rob Glenn, upping out of the digital sea. Talking AI and what it might be. Farron Dublin with the writer's eye so keen. Certain breaking news into a biting scene. Trucker John rolling in through the night. And don't forget the mods who keep it alright. Different voices, but all refined. Different hours, most of the time. United in cutting through the news. All cheered on by the Sparkler crew. Welcome to the Sparklerverse tonight, where curiosity keeps the lights on bright. Come to converse, we're broadcasting live from the Sparklerverse. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, yeah. He said nobody who healthcare could be so complicated. The Obamacare debate was 6 months litigated. Years of med school debt got capitalized. Insurance claim forms so high they nearly capsized. But he wouldn't know the frustration of trying to get prior authorization. Everybody knew, the whole world knew. The doctors, the lawyers, the CBO crew. Oh, 30,000 pages already reviewed. It wasn't a big secret. We knew. Oh, yeah. He said people don't realize Obama deported, but the porter-in-chief is what La Raza retorted. Obama went after the violent folks and felons. Trump nabbed the dishwashers and people picking melons. But Donald's argument shows that he's not very bright. If Obama made some wrongs, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Everybody knew, the whole world knew. Univision, AP, the fact check crew. Oh, acting all surprised that the sky is blue. It wasn't no secret. We knew. He asked who knew a virus could be so contagious. Virologist blinked at someone so outrageous. He was surprised at how many countries existed. No wonder when the virus spread, either one who missed it spread a map, slit red in every deadly hue. World Health Memo said we already knew. Everybody knew. Oh, the whole world knew. Oh, the lab coats, the leaders, and we were with the flu. Oh, the nations of the world, more than 192. It wasn't a big secret. We knew. You unveil oxygen like contraband air. Like 60. You sat down, claiming to discover chairs. War call money was this big surprise. Iraq has oil. Can you believe your eyes?
to present a question on Iraq.
Everybody knew, the whole world knew, the Christians, the Muslims, atheists, and the Jews. Like being shot, they have animals at the zoo. It wasn't a big secret. We knew, everybody knew, everybody knew, everybody knew, everybody knew.
Trump piled debt, trillions tall. Promised Mexico would fund that wall. Praised dictators, said they're strong. Had Joe done it, they'd say he's wrong. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, they'd scream foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Go through crises, storms, and war. Called soldiers losers who died in war. Hire his kids to run DC. If it was Hunter, they'd scream treachery. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, the numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, Fox News would say our they. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Love Kim Jong-un, he wrote love letters that take the guns first, lose those rights forever. Signed you spending bills with glee. Had Joe done that, it'd be tyranny. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, the numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they child up today. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Kept secret files, countless untold. Said Putin's word was good as gold. Invited the Taliban to come to U.S. soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, the numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd want him to pay. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Double standards loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason if Joe's the name is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, full numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Obama and Bush's pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten, hung in a hallway where no tour can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist. The testing was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, an administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Boxes of documents documents stacked floor to the wall. Top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Else includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Encampments downtown, tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't beat. Hide them away so the cameras can't find it. Proof of a system that's cold and unkind. Of chaos in secret and NDA sign. An illegal bribe, Michael Cohen fine. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag cause he was much shorter. It must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.